Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, I am your Colonial Champion, Sean McCarty, with a microphone I got in 2003, welcoming you to the Grapplys. And I am so excited to finally be here. Gimmick aside, well, this gimmick aside, I am so, oh, damn, that didn't sound good. I am so excited to be here and to be sharing with you a fantastic set of shows here called the Grapplys, the award show for wrestling's best and worst of the year 2021. We'll be giving out these belts all night long. And actually, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to shut this off like that. So you're just going to be able to see me, so that light won't be in the way, because I finally got this light back on so you can see me. Now give me 1 second here while I bring the boys into the conversation. We have got 10 categories, best and worst, so we've got our hands full here. And oh, damn, that is a disappointment. That is a disappointment. Oh, what a shame.
What a shame indeed.
Hello, sir.
Hello, how you doing, my co-host?
Well, first of all, you're a little too quiet, but that's on me. Second of all, I just had a glass piece of mine break, which I'm very upset about. So I'm going to have to get that replaced before too long. Little disappointing, but that's okay. But
late entry for botch of the year.
Well, it definitely was a botch because it was me throwing the microphone I used for the intro for the stream, and then, damn, there it went. So I'm going to have to do something else when I step out of frame. Thankfully, I don't think I lost anything in that excursion. Didn't seem like. So how you doing, buddy?
I'm here. I'm good. I'm ready to put 2021 to bed.
Yeah, I hear you on that, man. Welcome, JoshAgeddon.
Assuming he's around.
I thought he was here. It looked like he was here. He knocked on the door. There he is. There he is, beating his meat. What a surprise.
JoshAgeddon, speak.
Oh, no,
Hi.
he's speaking. He's speaking,
Hi.
all right. Well, folks.
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, but still scream.
No.
Yeah.
Okay, too loud.
You got to get right up and close on that. Otherwise, the peeps ain't going to hear you.
Okay, we'll do, sir. We'll do.
Okay,
but
so
I have not started my show yet. So
well, we're on the live stream, so I'm going to get some things sorted out. So why don't you bring us in on the TAW Gaming? So exclusively what you're seeing right now, this right here is only exclusive to you, the listeners of the Court-Martail podcast and the viewers of the Court-Martail podcast here on New Year's Eve. But if you want to hear the funnier recording of this, go to TAW Gaming. He's going to start up the podcast, which is so rough it's going to make you tap out, even though you're already in excruciating pain on this show.
Well, the difference is that you don't get to see this beautiful man's face right here.
Yeah, you don't get to see his face. You get to see my ugly mug.
yes.
Hey, you look good with the pirate hat, man.
If you did see me,
Thank
by
you.
the way, it'd be kind of uncomfortable because I'm in my underwear.
I'm not surprised. That's all I got to say. I'm just not surprised. Well,
I mean, maybe you can even hear my underwear.
No, we don't want to hear your underwear.
I prefer not to hear your underwear, sir. So, underwear notwithstanding.
Class.
Yeah, thankfully, I'm just wearing a Bryan Danielson shirt. Just says yes. Do you want to see JoshAgeddon's underwear?
No.
And so, if you want to see JoshAgeddon's underwear, will you see JoshAgeddon's underwear on this podcast? Cast your vote now on DraftKings.com. And
Why?
he will be getting this Grapply right here that you can see because he sucks. But he's got a podcast that's...
Yes, I do.
I
suck and I swallow.
So, why don't you start your podcast, sir?
Why don't I go ahead and start mine?
Yeah, for God's sakes. Before it gets any worse.
All right, here we go. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Totally Awesome Podcast. My name is JoshAgeddon, and I have a surprise for everyone listening. Take a listen to this.
Surprise!
Oh, yeah. I have some guests, and I also, don't ask why I did this, but I did this. I couldn't think of a better way to close the
Hey,
year than
dude,
with
you can't
the-
play more than that. Otherwise, we get copyrighted.
I
That
could
was
have.
true. I just thought my TV volume is like turned up to 100, and I just blasted that.
I genuinely thought that you had just like turned on a vacuum cleaner for a split second because it just sounded like nothing but feedback.
And I also have this.
Can we go back to playing Boston?
It was like, was that just that was that wasn't Boston? That was the Who.
Was it the Who?
Yeah,
I
and
couldn't hear it long enough.
and you won't get fooled again. So,
Oh, that's
Ladies and
all.
gentlemen,
Sorry.
I am joined by your Colonial Champion, Sean McCarty,
that's right.
and the Bay Area Brawler, Skylar Greenberg.
That's right. Well, that is gonna have to last through 10 categories of the best
yes.
and the worst of this year, and I have got our sheet, a little worksheet here, which we're gonna write down the best and worst of all of these, which hopefully you'll be able to see right side up. If not, then it's gonna be backwards, and I don't really care. So look at this backwards chart. And that's what you're going to be watching throughout the entire video. For those of you who are watching on the live stream, for those of you just listening, well, just going to have to follow along audibly, I guess.
Use your imagination.
That's right. It's really not that fancy. It's literally just an orange piece of construction paper with my left-handed handwriting on it. So, you know.
For the non-CMP listeners, which if there are any of them, you should be ashamed of yourselves. This is the end of the years. We're doing the Grapplys, which is Sean's award show for the end of the years.
That's right.
It's live streamed on the Court-Martail podcast right now as we speak.
That's right.
And I'm also recording this for the TAP, so I can have a free episode of the TAP. So thank you for the content, Sean.
And for those of you who are watching this on the TAP, Happy New Year! Because this is actually on the 31st, aired exclusively from the Colonial Dungeon, and we are doing this the day before we start 2022, but if you are a member of the Totally Awesome podcast, it is already passed. And pending we haven't all died from some masterful large explosion, Happy New Year.
Yeah, we're just all waiting for the balls to drop, and I've been waiting for mine to drop for a long time now.
Yes, and he's even engaged.
Yes, that is true.
And
Yes, I actually had the video on my channel not too long ago. I am officially engaged to my beautiful girlfriend, Andy, who's now my fiance.
Yes, congratulations, sir. And
Thank you, sir.
And before we start this, I want to just take a moment to just talk real quick about the 18, I believe was the number, just the wrestlers who've passed away this year, so we can get this sappy stuff out of the way quick, and then we can get on to awards.
I may proceed.
The 18 wrestlers we've lost this year. I'll start with the people I don't know as much, and then we'll just go through the rest. Angelo Mosca, Barry Orton, I don't know if there's a relation, Buddy Colt, Melissa Coates, Dominic DeNucci, who was big in the 70s as a WWF tag team with, I forget who his partner was, but Don Kernoodle, Joe Cephas, underrated guy. What was the name of his character in NWA? Do you remember?
I have no idea.
It was the question mark. Obviously, the question mark. The most over.
So he was the Riddler.
He basically, but only if he was like a cheesy 1980s karate generic grunt that like Bruce Lee would kick the crap out of in like 2 seconds as he got to the tower. But still gone way too soon. He was only like 40, maybe not even. The Patriot, Del Wilkes, who had Kurt Angle's theme before Kurt Angle was a thing.
Oh, that was the guy that Jim Cornette almost killed. Killed Kevin Dunn over. Yes,
that's also the guy who had the weirdest one-off title match with Bret Hart for the world title ever, and it was an incredible match, and in the weirdest way. And that was 97. He just randomly got that title match in 97 at a time when the Attitude Era was just about to take off.
By the way, ladies and gentlemen, outside my house right now, I can hear fireworks.
Let's hope that's fireworks. How are you doing,
Yeah.
Sky? You still alive?
I'm just waiting to get through this.
Yeah, we're trying to get. Yeah, so we got Blackjack.
By the way, to add something to it, Barry Orton is the son of Bob Orton Sr., brother of Bob Orton Jr., and uncle of Randy Orton.
Got it.
So there is relation.
Thank you, Mr. Research. Corporal Kirchner, Blackjack Lanza, who we discussed not just a couple weeks ago here on the podcast. So if you want to listen to our review of arguably one of the worst matches I've ever seen.
Well, again, it was a year before they retired.
Yeah, I know, but that was still it was a 5-finger stinker. But if you want to see some quality Blackjack Lanza and hear some quality Blackjack Lanza discussion, feel free to head back on the Court-Martail podcast. Now we're getting to the names. Ryan Sakota, who was a enhancement talent for a little while for WWE. The Assassin Jody Hamilton, who I have actually not watched a whole lot of. Still. Now, the names. Jimmy Rave. Surprised. That one happened pretty late. I didn't really, I've seen a little bit of his work. You know, he wasn't the biggest guy, a Ring of Honor guy. And he passed, what was it, like a day after Final Battle?
Yeah,
he did,
like
and he passed a couple days after Blackjack Lanza, and it was sad too. He had a MRSA infection. They cut off both his legs and his right arm, and he still died.
Yeah, tough. That's real tough. Infections, they'll get you in a heartbeat, man. They spread quick. Paul Orndorff, we lost this year.
Mr. Wonderful.
Mr. Wonderful, who had one of the best mustaches of any wrestler I've ever seen when he came back and did the table for 3 for the network. I don't know whether you guys saw that, but his mustache was like A grade. Colonel Sanders was jealous of that mustache.
We never would have gotten WrestleMania without Paul Orndorff.
That's right. The Pringles guy would have been jealous of that mustache.
What about Jim Carrey's Dr. Robotnik?
Wrestling.
I would say
Wrestling.
not from the first movie. The second movie, maybe on par. But I would say Orndorff has the first Robotnik beat.
Yeah.
Moving on, arguably the saddest or one of the saddest, Daphne.
Oh yeah.
That was tragic. And I want to say it happened out of nowhere, but there were signs, but it almost felt like it was just going to happen anyway. I don't know
especially the way it happened.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't know who was checking up on her. Well, apparently nobody.
Yeah.
But yeah, that one was really sad.
Wasn't she involved with some kind of lawsuit against TNA like a long time ago?
I wouldn't be surprised because I know that she was there was something about that match with 10,000 tacks that Daphne went through that was a problem, and I can't remember what now.
It was like a Monsters Ball match that involved Abyss, and Abyss chokeslammed her to the outside through barbed wire.
Yeah, well, no, it was one where she actually went through tacks, I think. And but it was some injury like that caused the problem. And I think that TNA was never really good at helping wrestlers out, when they were doing those kind of ridiculous things.
Oh, and by the way, speaking of Daphne, my fiance, Andy Krim, she goes to Winthrop University, and one of her professors actually is a former professional wrestler who knew Daphne.
Oh, wow. That's
some connections.
Yeah, connections. Sad still, but connections.
Yeah.
New Jack.
Oh, God.
Lord have mercy.
The more that I think about this dude and the more that I hear this dude, yeah, he's done some real sketchy stuff in his lifetime, but God, is he a personality. I could listen to him talk all day long. And
New Jack is like a good version of Nick Gage.
Yeah.
Somewhat.
Yeah, it's well, I mean, he did stab a guy 9 times just cause,
Yeah.
And he did have that match with the 77-year-old man where he just beat the absolutely teetotal shit out of him.
Yeah, the difference between Nick Gage and New Jack is New Jack stabbed someone with a knife. Nick Gage tried to rob someone without a gun.
Without a mask when he normally has a mask in the ring. Yeah. New Jack wasn't stupid. He just really, really, really liked cocaine.
Yes.
That's the difference. You know.
Don't do drugs, kids.
That's
Don't do
right.
Not
drugs.
do drugs. Not even once.
And then the last two on this list, Butch Reed, Hacksaw Butch Reed, old Mid-South classic, you know, an incredible worker. Didn't really get the Butch Reed we deserved when he was in WWE. Doom obviously was great with Ron Simmons and Teddy Long in WCW in 89 and 90. You know, so he was an incredible worker as well. I'd like to do more with Butch Reed too. I mean, when we do these territory examinations, well, I'm sure we'll come across Butch Reed again. And then the last one, and I chose this one. I'm sure many of you who know me know why. Beautiful Bobby Eaton passed this year, and that one still kind of gets me emotional, truthfully, because of just what Bobby means to pro wrestling. You know, your favorite wrestler's favorite wrestler, and there's a reason for that.
Yeah.
So, we'll move on from the sad stuff now, but rest in peace to the 18 names on this list. You know, we couldn't have had wrestling without you in one way or another, and we're always sad to have you go.
We also have to mention the one that just happened today, Betty White.
Yes. Yeah. Yes, Betty
My
White
God.
as well. 99, and I'm honestly mad at her that she didn't make 100 because she was only like 3 weeks away.
The final Golden Girl.
Could have done better.
Final Golden Girl.
Could have done better. I'm disappointed.
It is what it is.
But in any case, it is so.
We're going to move on to the Grapply.
That's right.
Let's go ahead and talk about what the Grapplys are in a second.
So,
The Grapplys are our awards throughout the entirety of professional wrestling, although we're going to mainly focus on WWE and AEW because they're the ones that we focus on. I'm sorry, Joshua, we don't watch enough New Japan to understand what the Grapplys are there.
Bro, I haven't watched New Japan since COVID started.
Exactly.
But anyways, so as you can see with Sean's chest, he has 2 championship belts. The people who deserve the worst of the worst will receive the bad Grapply. Show them the bad Grapply, please.
Can you show it again? I'm sorry, Sean. I'm too busy staring at your chest.
Oh, please.
It's funny is that my chest isn't in the video right now, you liar. But that's what the bad Grapply
will
looks
receive
like.
this Grapply on a toy belt. And the real winners, the people who produce the best stuff in wrestling, will receive this little prize.
On an actual replica belt that I got like over 15 years ago.
Yeah.
Thank you, Shauna White. Anyways, so what we're going to do is that we're going to talk about wrestling, and particularly with worst category, we're going to focus on wrestlers who are in prominent positions who have done terrible. We could easily mention like independent wrestlers, like we could mention Joe Mo and John Dick and whatever. But we're going to talk about people who have gotten prominent positions, prominent screen time, and still fuck up.
Who have some sort of standing in professional wrestling, right? We're not going to be talking about the guy who stabbed the referee 9 times with the spike. You know, he's not making the list.
That guy.
You know, he's not making the list. We're talking people.
What with that guy?
We're talking people with actual legitimacy. You know, I'm not talking about a guy who's basically on our level just beating on a poor referee. I'm talking about actual wrestlers who do wrestling on wrestling programs, or at least things that try to claim that they're wrestling programs or sports entertainment. But
yeah.
But in any case, we got 10 categories. Now, here's what I want to do, gents. 10 categories, best and worst. All of us are going to put up a nominee, and then we will decide on one winner for each category that we'll write down. So we all get 3 nominations. Maybe we'll all choose the same person. Maybe we won't. But it'll allow us to have a little bit.
It'll probably be better if we choose different people, so that way we embrace debates.
Right.
Yes.
So, but it's all up to, you know, if we all came up with the same person, then we all came up with the same person, you know? So,
yeah.
So
I guarantee you with some of these, we're probably going to all think of the same person.
Yeah. Oh, well, for sure. And then there's going to be ones where all 3 of us have different people. So we will decide on it. Well, here are the categories. I'll break it down for you. We have the best and the worst male wrestler, female wrestler, best and worst match, promo, tag team, stable, which we've had a pre-recording discussion whether that counts, and it does. Best and worst pay-per-view or show of the year, gimmick, botch, and feud. And this is going to be real fun. And I'm not going to do these all in the exact order we just said because I'd like to, we'll do that. So let's start. Let's start actually at the top. Let's start with the best male wrestler of the year. I know this is one of the top card ones, but we'll do a WWE format where we'll put one of the top matches first.
Figures.
So, top male, JoshAgeddon, who is your nominee for the top male, best male wrestler who will receive this Grapply and why?
Okay, for best male, I have there are a few options, but I feel like really only one stands out. He's basically been the focal point of pro wrestling, the biggest name, arguably. I'm going with the tribal chief himself, Roman Reigns.
That's
the
good
tribal treat, Roman Reigns.
The tribal tree.
He's got those tribal treats.
Tribal tree. And he just hangs belts off his branches.
The tribal tree.
The tribal tree, Roman Reigns.
Hey,
yeah, I'm going with Roman Reigns.
Hey, what's up, baby girl?
That's right.
He's like, I need it. Like, it's dry outside. There's a drought. I need Roman Reign.
You want to touch my bark?
Oh, wow. You want to touch my bark?
So
Roman Reigns has been nominated.
So I will give you splinters.
So Roman Reigns is the nominee, and it's pretty easy to see why. I mean, he has been the most consistent of anybody in pro wrestling probably this whole year, at least with WWE. The one time it actually feels like they're doing it right by having Roman Reigns be the focal point of their program.
Mm-hmm.
Skylar.
For the sake of adding people who will basically be honorable mentions, even though I personally agree with Roman Reigns, I want to suggest Bobby Lashley. The run that he went on in the middle of this year, becoming WWE champion, beating Drew McIntyre at WrestleMania, his matches with Kofi Kingston, even if I didn't love it, his stuff with Goldberg, and even the feud with Big E. Bobby Lashley has been good, producing stuff. Him and MVP are a treat to watch.
They are. So Bobby Lashley gets a nomination.
It's weird that he's having such an amazing run so late in his career as well.
Yeah, that's 45. He's putting in, some people just bloom late. Diamond Dallas Page. He didn't start until 35. And he was a 3-time world champion until he made them stalk Undertaker's wife. And
God.
And prior to that, he was on another level. He was in his mid-40s when he got to WWE. That's pretty ridiculous. Some people are just late bloomers. And so our nominations so far are Roman Reigns and Bobby Lashley. Well, I'm going to have to go across the pond to the other company here for my nomination. Now, my nomination, I thought really hard, and I almost wanted to nominate CM Punk because of how big a wave he's made in professional wrestling since his return. But he's only been around for
half a year? Since August.
So not months. Even. So it's like
I was about to say,
as much as
I really considered him myself, but again, he's only been around for half the year.
Right. So I can't really give him the props because he's only been around for 5 months. But the guy I will nominate is a guy who's made splashes in more places than one and has not lost a step of momentum going from one to the other. And in fact, has gained more momentum, I think, now than he had in any of the time lately he spent in the place before. And it's the guy who's on my shirt.
Bryan Danielson.
My nomination is Bryan Danielson. I think that he has had, from main eventing WrestleMania. Think about this. He main evented WrestleMania this year. Night 2, albeit. But he main evented WrestleMania. Then by the end of the year, was main eventing in a world title match, had a 60-minute Broadway classic with Adam Page, and is main eventing tonight for another world title match. There is no other person who could have possibly made that lateral move from top card to top card and put in consistent work with people, even Kenny Omega, who I've had my issues with. He had a very good match with Kenny Omega. This guy has not lost a step and has not put in a bad match since his arrival, or since the entirety of 2020 started. And to go from one to another and feel just as, if not more important, I think that makes him the wrestler of the year.
Sounds about right.
So,
But the question is, who of those three is the overall winner?
tough to say.
You know, me personally, as much as I do stand by my choice of Roman Reigns, I'm going to give it to Sean because, again, Bryan Danielson has been on top and consistently great in 2 companies. Roman's just been consistently great in 1. So,
but the thing about it is that I think Roman has put in more work with more people. Plus, you have to remember there was 3 months where Daniel Bryan was not wrestling.
Yeah.
So that does hurt his
I
standing.
mean, it does. It does. My counter to that is, does Roman Reigns not feel a little bit like we've seen Roman Reigns matches now? I mean, look at these past 3 months. His match with Big E was okay. His match with Balor was terrible. And that's not Roman Reigns' fault. I'm not saying it was.
That fucking Extreme Rules show.
You know, and then, you know, to have the match with Brock at Saudi Arabia, which was, again, okay. But it feels like with Roman Reigns, as much as great as he is, it feels like we've seen it with Roman Reigns. Whereas I feel more captivated as to what Bryan's going to do now than I did at the start.
I think that's a fair argument. So you, Sean, are in for Daniel Bryan, and Joshua, you are in for Daniel Bryan?
Yes.
Well, I'll join you guys because even though I think Roman's had the better year, I can't argue with the fact that Daniel Bryan's had a better run.
Yeah.
And
here to Bryan Danielson.
Yes, cheers to you, Bryan Danielson. And not to say that those other 2 nominees aren't as earning of this Grapply as Bryan Danielson.
Go Daniel Bryanson.
So Daniel McDaniel Bryanson McBrien Daniel.
Also, for those of you wondering, the noises you're hearing is me eating macaroni and cheese.
That's okay. Slurp into the mic if you can.
Who was the siren going off earlier?
That was me.
Holler if you hear
I
me.
know. Scott Steiner was making an appearance.
Yes.
He wanted to grapple.
That's so funny. We just made the same joke.
We've been doing this for too long.
That's great.
Dude.
That's how you know that the 3 of us have got like the perfect chemistry to do this. So Bryan Danielson makes the list.
You say all grapplers are created equal, but you look at me and you look at Daniel Bryan and see that statement's not true.
That's clearly not true. Well, I think that's about as good a transition as any to go into the Grapply for worst male wrestler.
Oh, God.
And this one I think is, I almost feel like we're going to be almost unanimous in this, but let's start with Skylar.
Well, we'll see. It depends on our taste and what we like and what we don't like.
True.
But I have to go with the person who has executive power and has continuously sucked the entire year, has not produced anything good, has a stupid reality show. Fucking Cody Rhodes.
Yeah, that's a good choice. That's a good choice. We got to see Cody Rhodes just for how stupid he really is this year.
And how uninteresting and how badly he performs. The wool has been pulled over my eyes. I see you, Cody Rhodes, for what you are, and you are not good.
Yeah, this year he hasn't been. Joshua? Actually, you know what? I'll go next. We'll keep the rotation. We'll keep the rotation the same.
All right, yeah, Sean, you go.
I'll go next. And my nominee is somebody who, I mean, honestly, Cody Rhodes is a really good choice. And right next to him is this guy. We made a meme out of this man this year.
Yep.
And the reason we made a meme out of this man this year is because everything he has touched has been awful. I mean, awful. There's one thing. There's not one match I can think of. Not even that Jericho and MJF versus, who was it, the Bucks? Oh.
Yes, it was.
At Revolution. You know, nothing that this man has done has been meritable. Nothing. The best thing he did all year was getting a medical-related incident that was non-COVID in Ireland and being out for like 2 weeks. That was my favorite thing that this man has done all year is leave. And I hope he does that more this year, because the more that I see him, the less interested I am in a product that I think, apart from his angles, is by and large improving. I'm nominating Chris Jericho.
Yeah, I honestly thought Skylar was going to go with Chris Jericho.
I'm more offended by what Cody Rhodes does, because at least Chris Jericho's excuse is that he's at the end of his career. He's not in the shape he once was. That's an excuse, legitimately. Cody Rhodes is in the prime of his career and is making dumb choices. But let's have your nominee, Joshua, and we'll debate.
My nominee is not an AEW guy. My nominee is someone who has a similar problem to Chris Jericho. It's time to call it quits, and you need to go away. Say what you want about Jericho. He's been terrible in AEW this year, and I, the AEW apologist of the group, have really got soured on Jericho as of late. But there's one person that every time he stepped into the ring, I've hated it. And I'm genuinely concerned every time he steps into a ring. Even though he's only done it a couple times. I'm going with Goldberg.
I don't disagree with you necessarily because everything he's done has been garbage.
Yeah. Like, if there's one thing that really sets him apart from me. When Jericho steps in the ring and when Cody steps in the ring, yeah, it's probably going to suck, but no one's going to get hurt. Goldberg scares me whenever he gets in the ring because I'm terrified he's going to hurt himself or someone else. And he almost hurt Bobby Lashley during their match at SummerSlam. So, like, I can at least know with Chris Jericho and Cody that everyone's going to make it out of the match okay. You might be difficult to take them seriously, but at least no one's going to get injured. With Goldberg, I have no idea.
But the thing about Goldberg is that he doesn't appear that much, so his damage is smaller. He's a worthy nominee, but I think overall Cody's the worst because he has executive power. His wife has executive power.
Well,
they get all the screen time they want. They cut a jingoistic promo about hating England and the United Kingdom. They have a reality TV show about themselves and their lives, which no one wants to see. And need we mention the placenta?
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, honestly, we do. We do.
I don't know about you guys. I'm voting for Cody Rhodes, and I'm sticking to it.
You know, I think I'm gonna have to agree with you on that, Sky, because the thing with Cody Rhodes too, with me, it's like this dude's got a lineage, right? Like I made this whole angle on ACPW about Cody's entitlement and his royalty, and facing his brother because he stomps on Dusty's legacy, but he really does. A lot of that stuff is stuff that I actually feel about Cody, and I feel like he disrespects his name a lot of the time. And I'm not saying, who the fuck am I? I understand that. But, like, at the same time, it's like, if Dusty was here, realistically, if Dusty was here, would he approve of anything that Cody has been doing?
Absolutely not.
If he wasn't his son, right? If this was just some other guy, some random dude doing all the same stuff whose name wasn't Dusty Rhodes, and Dusty Rhodes saw that guy, do you think that Dusty Rhodes would want that guy to be a part of his roster?
Probably not.
I actually think that Cody is arguably. I tend to agree. As much as I want to give Jericho, but the youth part of that really plays a point. At least his executive power isn't real. At least it's still Tony Khan's, ultimate decision. But the fact that he's even alienated himself from the elite really tells the story, doesn't it?
And the thing about it is that, yes, Cody could turn heel and we could still boo him and then he would be effective. But the fact is that I don't want to see him. Whenever his segments come up, I turn off the TV. And yes, I'm trying to watch AEW. I'm not able to watch it all the time, but when I can. When I see Cody Rhodes, I skip. Move on. No interest.
Yeah, JoshAgeddon?
I mean, I don't hate him as much as you guys do, but I can totally see why you guys, well, especially Skylar, has a problem with him and his segments. To me, Goldberg is still the worst, but again, he's barely been around. It's just whenever he is around, I'm terrified. And it wakes me up in the middle of the night worrying about, I'm exaggerating, but my pick is still going to be Goldberg, but 2 is better than 1, so you guys win.
Oh, and to your credit, JoshAgeddon, the other thing about that is that Goldberg, I totally get you as far as like him being the worst wrestler because I get that fear that he's in, but I almost say that it's not even his fault because why are they still hiring him?
Yeah, that is true.
They've released a jillion people this year, including Nia Jax, the Real Hurt Business, and
yes.
And it's just, I don't know. I feel like if Goldberg had been around more and was doing around more, there'd be more of this to make. But I feel long term, Goldberg isn't hurting the business as much. He might be hurting individual people, which is never good. but he's not hurting the business the way Cody's hurting the business.
You know what Goldberg is hurting more than anything else?
Himself.
His own reputation and his own legacy.
Yeah, same way Taker did. Sadly, but we all look at it now and say, well, probably should have left after 30.
And at least Undertaker had the sense to retire, we think, so far.
Yeah, in the Thunderdome with nobody there with pumped in Kevin Dunn chants. Don't remind me.
Oh, God. But Goldberg's is keeping on trucking.
Well, we should move on to the next category.
Yeah, well, so we will put down Cody, just for the majority wins, but Goldberg is still going to get the honorable mention as the second worst male wrestler of the year.
I also briefly considered nominating Nick Gage because fuck Nick Gage, but
he's not in a prominent enough role to really do damage.
Yeah, he exists on planet Earth, and it bothers me.
Fair enough.
He showed up on AEW.
That is true.
He was there. It existed. All right.
He was in the main event of the first episode of SWCG.
But that actually.
The fuck out of it.
But yeah, that was actually worth it though. And so let's move on now to a lesser topic. Let's move on to gimmick of the year. Best gimmick of the year. Now, I want to try and keep this exclusive to things that we have seen debut this year alone. So, meaning Baron Corbin as King Corbin doesn't, not that you would nominate him for best gimmick of the year, but the King Corbin gimmick doesn't count because that was from last year. But if you wanted to choose Happy Corbin or Sad Corbin or whatever all that was, which I doubt either of you are going to, that counts because it happened this year. Make sense?
Sure, but I'm probably not going to go along with that because I'm not going to lie. In my opinion, of this year, there really haven't been that many good gimmicks.
Well, there really haven't been that many gimmicks, period.
That is true.
But why don't we start? Oh, I guess it's me first, huh?
Okay.
So the gimmick I have chosen for the best gimmick this year is difficult because, like you said, Josh, again, there really aren't that many good gimmicks. We got some of the dreck of gimmicks, but I'm going to say that the best gimmick is probably CM Punk's redemption story and his return story, because he could have come as anything, but he came as this savior to the people and has fed into the savior, being the savior of pro wrestling. And a lot of people have really gravitated towards that. And look at how well the ratings were doing when he first came back. That gimmick where he's been, by and large, just cutting real promos on people, but saying, I want to fight Darby Allin. I want to fight all these people because this is the hottest place to be. That's as much a gimmick as anything else, even though it's just an extension of CM Punk, the person himself.
So we're not necessarily saying the best gimmick, but the best characters.
Sure.
Depending on how you want to describe it. But yeah, basically, I just don't like using the word character. But best gimmick, yeah, I quantify it the same way.
You mean you didn't like the 2014 Royal Rumble when JBL went into the Royal Rumble and Michael Cole said, the JBL character has never been in the Rumble before?
Yeah, okay. We're not going to mention Michael Cole, who automatically gets announcer worst of the year. Anyways.
Yes.
They all get worst announcer of the year. Every single wrestling announcer gets
bad.
Worst announcer of the year.
Except for Pat McAfee, because he's a damn treasure.
Yes.
Except for Pat McAfee. He wins best. We didn't even have that as a category, but we pretty much just solved it right there.
So who's next for nomination?
Joshua, your turn.
All right. So similar to Sean saying that this isn't really a gimmick, it's more like an extension of him. I really love, personally, how MJF is considered to be like the uncensored, you never know what offensive stuff he's going to say person. So like whenever he called Brian Pillman Jr., whenever he was talking about how his mom should have aborted him and stuff like that, they give him more leeway and offensive shit he can say, and it makes it feel more real. And MJF's the one guy that can get away with doing that, so I'm going with MJF.
And it's exclusive to this year because he was spent the entirety of last year dragged down by Chris Jericho. So we've gotten to see and feel that more now than we ever have with MJF.
Oh yeah, absolutely. He's been on fire this year.
He has. Skylar.
You will notice a trend that people who have particularly good years will be up for multiple nominations. And
Sure.
I feel like I have to do this again. When Bryan Danielson returned to the face to AEW, I was excited, but at the same time I was a little because it's paint by the numbers babyface Bryan Danielson, which we've seen before. But when he turned heel and became a no-nonsense ass kicker who wants the title, that's when he really takes off. So Bryan Danielson's heel turn into the angry vegan is great to see.
Yeah. And this one is more just like, this heel turn with Bryan is not even like angry vegan. It's more just like, I'm a better wrestler than you, and I'm going to prove it, and I'm going to show it, and I know, and I'm so cocky about it. You know,
if anything, it almost feels like it's a return to the American Dragon.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's what I really like about it. And it's been something that's been an incredible transformation with him. That he needed. And I think that Punk has been interesting because he's been able to mold himself in many different ways depending on the wrestler he's working with. Whereas Daniel Bryan has been a little bit more consistent. Or Bryan Danielson, depending on what you say. I've got the Daniel Bryan shirt on, so you're just going to have
Daniel Bryanson.
Brian Bryanson.
Yes.
So with Brian Bryanson,
Danielson.
that's right. So I think that there's definitely a case to be made for B Dry. That doesn't work, does it? You should be dry though.
Yes.
Who needs water?
Be dry.
Be dry. Better be dry.
Just for that, I'm siding with Skylar. Be dry.
So yeah, I think that he's gonna win another one, which is pretty wild. It wins 2 in a row for the best, where the best gimmick goes to Brian Bryanson.
My fave 5 is occupied by B Dry.
So wins 2 of them in B Dry.
That should be
American Dragon, Bryan Danielson.
That's right. B Dry. There we go. So now we move on.
I'm scared of what's next.
The worst gimmick of 2021. JoshAgeddon, you are going first.
Okay. I'm going to have to pick. I cannot pick between these two, and I feel like you guys know exactly which two I have in mind.
Well, don't worry, because you're going to pick one, and I'll pick the other.
God. These two suck so much ass. It's embarrassing. It makes me not want to watch. I cannot pick between the demon Alexa Bliss or Nikki, almost a stupid horse.
Almost stupid horse.
Almost a stupid
Which
horse.
means it's just a horse.
Nikki ass.
That's a good nomination. Sky?
Both of them are terrible. And I can't choose between the two of them.
Well, you picked Nikki Ash.
Okay. But I feel like Alexa Bliss's is worse
Hold on,
literally
Josh,
got up and left during one of her segments.
JoshAgeddon, first off, you pick Nikki Ash, right?
Sure.
Okay, fine. I'll pick Alexa Bliss for you. But specifically, because the demon Alexa's been around for the year, the fucking doll.
Oh,
I
yeah,
hate the
true.
fucking doll.
That's true.
But to be fair, we did get one of the greatest moments of the year because of her, which I'm not going to say right now. I'm going to wait until one of the other categories to mention it.
Oh, no. I think I know what it is.
But
I feel bad for Sean because me and Josh again picked the two easy ones.
well, I didn't really have.
Are sitting through this shit easy. I have
No.
nightmares about how shit this is.
No, but that's the thing is that we picked the two easiest ones that were terrible. I don't know which one Sean's going to pick.
Well, I'm going to pick one that's probably not going to win the nomination, but it's one that just got on my nerves. At first, I didn't mind it because the dude was like, he was over the top, but it's, it's WWE. I'm like, okay, fine. You can definitely tell the dude's had personality, and then the Old Spice commercials, and then just playing at random, and then Nakamura, we all wear white. We did it on purpose. And then let me play my guitar in the middle of a matchup so Damian Priest can be just angry boy for no reason. And so my choice for worst gimmicks is Rick Boogs.
Putting the boo in Rick Boogs.
Yeah. because he has been. I mean, not to say that either of yours were not the worst, because both of them really are, but they were worst in waves. Where Rick Boogs has been a consistent suck all year. You know, Alexa petered out June, July, or whenever.
She petered out in September.
Yeah, okay, in September. Nikki Ass, she's got the tag belts, but like, who's seen her on TV lately? Yeah, exactly. You know,
I think Rhea and Nikki lost the tag belts to Selena Vega and someone else.
Oh,
Carmella.
right. Oh, right.
Carmella.
I forgot because I could not care. And
who cares about the women's tag team championship?
And so
no one, especially not WWE.
But the thing about it overall, Alexa Bliss ruined Bray Wyatt. Well, I mean, Bray Wyatt got ruined anyways, but she drove the stake into his career, and Alexa Bliss drove the stake into hers. And I think that takes it over the top. Because let's be clear, Nikki Ash is bad, but she didn't ruin anyone else's career but her own. But Alexa Bliss is responsible for 2 career deaths.
Not only that, during one of her segments, people got up and left the arena.
Yeah.
One of these gimmicks made people get up and leave.
Yeah, I hate
and
to
it
say
gets my vote.
I mean, Rick Boogs ruined Elias's chance of ever coming back with a guitar, but
that is true.
And but I will concede the point, and I will say that in this instance, I think that it is in fact
Alexa Bliss.
I think it is in fact Alexa Bliss who is winning the Grapply this year for the worst gimmick.
Oh yeah.
See, we don't have to big brain galaxy these. Some of these are just obviously bad.
Yeah.
There it is. All right. Next up, let's do the promo of the year. Best promo, Skylar.
Now, when we're talking about promo, we're not talking about a single individual promo. We're just talking about people who cut the best promos. So we can mention one in particular that really inspired us. But overall, there's only one man that can win this. It has to be CM Punk, and specifically the return to Chicago. Because that promo, nothing has ever touched it. And nothing will ever touch it. And his work since has been exceptional.
It has. It has been exceptional. His promos are always very good. He has not lost his ability to do that.
I feel like I know that Sean might go with someone other than CM Punk.
But it's only been 4 months that we've had CM Punk. And it's been off the chain, right? Don't get me wrong. It's off the chain. But who's been giving consistent promos from the start of the year to the end of the year, even with the Chris Jericho garbage that he had to suffer through the first half, coming out of that, going right into Pillman, making Pillman feel meaningful, making Jungle Boy feel meaningful for a match, but making Jungle Boy feel more meaningful.
One singular match.
But every time that MJF cuts a promo on somebody, it means something. And it's got oomph to it, and it doesn't matter who it is, but they feel more important because of him, which is something that Punk does as well. But for someone who's 25 years old, to feel that important just on his promos alone, because MJF's work in the ring is good, very good, very good. I wouldn't say that he's, wouldn't say he's the greatest thing since sliced bread in the ring. He's very good, but really what puts him over the top is his promos. And he would
say that.
And of course he would, because he's better than us, and we know it. But it's just, I feel like when it comes to a consistency, give me anybody to bitch about, I will bitch about them, and I will make you want me to bitch more about them next week because of how well I'll bitch about them right now.
Hello?
My nomination has got to be MJF.
Okay. I lost you for a second there.
Well, it's your turn.
No, hold on, Josh, again. Question.
Okay.
You're going to pick CM Punk, right?
When I wrote down best promo, I thought it was like one singular promo, not like a person giving promos. I wrote down CM Punk versus MJF.
Okay, so hold on.
Well,
I'll let you keep CM Punk as your nomination. I'm going to switch my nomination just because I want to get some more variety. And I want to shout out a person.
Okay.
Even though I don't think he's going to win. But when we're talking about the art of managing, there's nobody who does it anymore
Yeah.
except for one man. It has to be the Walrus himself, Paul Heyman.
He's the only person I think that I could very well go be like, I want to hear what he has to say in WWE. You know, and that's no knock on Roman, because every time that Roman says something now, it's definitely more meaningful than it used to be. But Paul is he is a master orator. And he's got all the years experience under his belt. It's another good shout out.
I also want to give a shout out to Eddie Kingston because he's great too.
Yes, another great promo. It's but I particularly for this one, I'm stick as much as I love Punk, and I'm not knocking Punk. It's only been 5 months, and for the full year, it's been MJF in and out.
I mean, I'm going with Sean's answer because I wrote down CM Punk versus MJF. MJF's on there, so MJF.
As much as I love Paul Heyman, and I think he's a great manager, he's not a wrestler, and that ultimately hurts him somewhat because he's not promoting to matches with himself. And I have to agree, while I love CM Punk, and I think on aggregate, he's done better promos, he hasn't been around the entire year. And specifically with this category, we're talking about of the year. So I got to go with MJF too.
Which I will say this, though, just before this year starts, CM Punk, I would say, is the front runner to win this award next year, though.
He's the front runner to win most of the awards next year. He's probably going to get a good chance for best male.
There's a good shot. He's got a good shot.
He'll probably put up this match. He'll probably put up all these different awards.
Yeah, so we'll see CM Punk's name more the more that we see CM Punk, really. Now,
yeah.
Who has been the worst in the promo game? And I have to nominate first, don't I? So, the person
I have a very interesting nominee.
The nominee I'm choosing is somebody who, as much as I want to believe in this person, I just can't believe. I just, for some reason, I cannot believe in this person. And also, I think that in a lot of ways, this guy tries too hard. And because he's tried so hard, it hasn't come off. And he's just not that good at it. He's a guy who's somebody who, let me put it this way, John Cena did the gimmick better.
Oh.
I'm going to say the worst promo of 2021 goes to Max Caster.
Oh, that's a good one.
Because hey, Dustin, look at me, Dustin. Yo. Hey, Dustin. Yo.
It doesn't help that Max Caster doesn't sound natural when he's doing the rapping. Like John Cena, as much as John Cena sounded like a white guy rapping, he sounded like a guy that was actually rapping.
He had fun with it, and his lines were his lines were solid. Max's lines are garbage. They're really not that insulting, and when they are, they're like too over the top insulting. It's like this guy, he's not that good. He's just not good.
That's a good pick.
JoshAgeddon, right. I believe the floor is yours.
Like, honestly, I legitimately forgot about him because he's so irrelevant. But I'm not even going to lie. For worst promo, I'm still eating. I just wrote down any WWE promo.
Well, yes,
like
but you got to pick
in general.
But you got to pick a specific person. You can't pick a company.
Watch me. Real quick, this year, just CM Punk, Eddie Kingston, MJF, all of them have just shown me there's no excuse for WWE being as shit as they are with promos.
No.
It's too scripted. The way AEW does it is clearly better with people who actually can do it. And there's so many people in WWE that can do promos that sound weird and robotic because they're so overly scripted. I can't pick the whole company, but I wish I could. But I'm going with Eva Marie because she sounds like a robot.
Oh, I forgot she was even in WWE again. Thanks, Johnny Ace.
Yeah. Oh, don't worry. Her name will come up a little bit later.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, given I've already mentioned the fact that he cut a promo against the United Kingdom, despite the fact that we're not angry at them, considering the fact that he continuously cuts promos about his family, despite the fact that no one has interest in his family, despite the fact that he cuts promos against a guy named QT Marshall and builds little to zero excitement, the fact that he should be a heel but pretends to be a babyface, it must be Cody Rhodes.
It's the other John Cena.
Well, QT Marshall doesn't really scream excitement to begin with. I don't know if I really will fault Cody on that. But it's one thing to be told to script promos and to read this because everything in WWE is manufactured, but to do it voluntarily
and to
and to not be any good at it because he was always better when he just wasn't doing that, when he was just talking like him. Yeah. Do we give Cody a second Grapply? A second worst Grapply?
I mean, I'm not arguing against it. I don't agree, but I don't like if he gets it, then I don't really. I don't give a crap about Cody Rhodes. I don't hate him. I'm just very indifferent. So,
well, but remember how valuable Cody felt a year ago,
and now that does bring up the point. He went from being awesome like 2 years ago to who cares?
Yeah, and I think his promos actually have a lot to do with that. It's not even his matches that are the problem. It's his demeanor. It's his promos that have really led him to this point.
Remember that one promo that he had when he was feuding with Jericho before he lost the AEW World Title match? He had a really good promo on Jericho.
Yeah. His promos with Dustin were great. And
then one time he goes to Boston and says, "Hey, I hear you guys," as they boo him, "but I'm not going to turn heel."
Yeah. And then he gets a reality show. And then he gets a game show that nobody watches. And, then he started getting the things he really wanted to get as a kid, which was to act and not to wrestle. And now, honestly, I wouldn't even mind if Cody just left wrestling.
Same.
I wouldn't mind it.
That Cody Rhodes is quickly climbing up, and he may be my most hated wrestler in my personal.
He's getting up there.
He has replaced Goldberg, which is saying something.
I think Cody, in fact, does earn worst promo of the year. Although Max Caster is terrible, but he's not really as relevant as Cody as far as who he is.
All Max Caster is like uncreative raps and pop culture references.
Yeah, and to be fair, JoshAgeddon's nomination isn't without merit. I mean, not even specifically the one person, but just in general, because WWE's format is so bad that nobody sounds good on that program.
Yeah.
The
way that WWE does it is a promo career killing machine.
Yes. So in that respect, I understand your point. So we are now 7 categories left. Let's move on to the stable of the year.
This is gonna be tough.
I really think there's only one choice, but JoshAgeddon, it's your choice. It's your nomination.
You guys are gonna hate me for this. There's not any good ones in my opinion. The best one was Undisputed Era, but they broke up.
Yep.
So I didn't pick them. And mine's one that's based in AEW because they have like 8 trillion factions. This faction that I'm picking isn't I'm putting the best because they're so good. I'm putting the best because they at least did some stuff. I'm going with the Elite. Out of sheer lack of option.
You'd be the only one to nominate them. And you know that. And
I don't know.
But
and I'm not picking them because I love them so much. I'm picking them because their guys were world champions and they had decent reigns and they had some good matches, and that's it.
Well, I don't disagree with you. They did do stuff.
They did stuff. Which is more than every other faction.
They did
this
stuff.
Year.
Skylar, I can feel your hatred. I can literally feel the hatred coming out of the speaker on Skylar's end. That West Coast is on fire.
The thing about it is that I don't like them, but I have to agree with you, Joshua, because AEW. Hold on. They're not my nomination, but I'll just want to say AEW has 1 trillion stables and none of them feel important.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, WWE only has 1 or 2 stables that barely do anything together, but they matter because they're the only ones that have power. I mean, I think I know what Sean's going to pick, so I'm going to nominate someone else just to get some variety. I'm going to pick the New Day, only because I think the stuff that Big E has done this year has been great. The stuff with Kofi and Xavier and telling that story against Roman Reigns at Survivor Series was really good. But again, it's from a sheer lack of options. Now, Sean, pick the real winner that I already know you're going to pick.
Well, I mean, as far as the best, there's really only one that's been treated the best, respected the best, and hasn't had a match that had fake plastic pig ribs in a freezer in a football stadium. And which is why the Elite just narrowly edges out on my nomination. I'm nominating the Bloodline. Roman Reigns has been absolutely spectacular. The Usos, well, I haven't necessarily loved everything the Usos have done this year. It's not necessarily the Usos' fault, except for the DUI, but
yeah. It immediately resulted in them winning tag team gold.
Yeah, and they got belts for it. So there you go. and so I think it's got to be the Bloodline. They've been treated the best. They've been held in this respect the best. Roman Reigns is putting in a career year. You know, I wanted to put Roman Reigns as the best male with all of them too. I just think, but like I said before, you know, you've seen Roman Reigns, you know, but that doesn't mean that he hasn't had a spectacular year nonetheless. So I would say the Bloodline with Paul Heyman and his stuff with Brock now, it's been the captivating thing on WWE, the only captivating thing on WWE of late. So I got to give that nomination to them.
I'm going with the Bloodline as well.
Bloodline it is.
Bloodline it is.
I
had a feeling that there wouldn't be much dispute with that one.
Because there's no one else.
But there is.
Well, here's the thing. Best, there's no one else.
Worst, though.
We have several options.
Worst, though, we got ourselves a list. So here we go. This is what the chart looks right now. You can see the Bloodline making it for Stable of the Year.
And the good thing is that most of the options are from AEW because they have so many stables.
That's right. And Skylar, it is your first pick.
I hope we all pick the same one.
I don't think we're all going to pick the same one, but I feel like we're going to try to. I debated nominating the Dark Order since they were the winners last year, but I'm not going to, go 2 in a year because I actually think this group is worse.
I don't think the Dark Order have really had that bad of a year. Weirdly. They're just weird. We just don't know why they're there still.
They're just like filler support characters that are just there.
They should just call them the extras.
Yeah.
That's all they are.
That's what they are.
The dark extras.
That's what they are.
But honestly, it's just talk about ruining a career late stage. Can we just talk about Matt Hardy for a second and all the dumb shit he's done? And the people that he's aligning himself with is just terrible. Like, Matt Hardy, please retire.
Go home to your 64 kids and your bitchy
Go
wife.
home to your 64 kids. The Matt Hardy Empire, the Matt Hardy office, the family office, whatever you want to call it. See you soon, Jeff.
You know what's funny? I love Matt. I loved Matt. I've mentioned this many, many times that I have been friends. You know, I met Matt a couple times. I always enjoyed his work. I always thought he was underrated. But this was also my nomination, was Matt's team, because this is just, it's terrible. It's actually terrible. Private Party went from being hot prospects to being hot garbage. And it really, the second it happened was when Matt Hardy got a hold of them. Same thing with Angelico and what's his face.
Jack Evans.
That's the one. Yep, that guy. They went from being irrelevant to being really irrelevant. Once Matt Hardy got a hold of them, and it's just everything I've seen from that team has been terrible. It's been low card at best, and Orange Cassidy play kicked all 3 of them, and they all went for it, so they can all go suck a bag of dicks, to quote the lovely Mr. Stephen Packard. So yeah,
he gave Pepka a stunner.
They were my pick as well, but just for shits and giggles, I'll throw the Inner Circle's name into the hat just because Chris Jericho and the aforementioned frozen pig halves in Jacksonville.
Well, you said it, Sean, because the Inner Circle was my pick.
Well, then you got to make a third pick.
God, the Inner Circle is so horrendous. They are I don't really watch hardly any Matt Hardy segments, so I can't really give an opinion on him. He's just kind of there whenever I watch AEW. But every time I watch AEW, the Inner Circle is doing something fucking dumb. Like, they had the worst thing on Double or Nothing, that stupid Stadium Stampede match, which was the main event of the show.
Yep.
And then that god-awful match at All Out, which All Out was a really good show. And just everything they've done has just either been really stupid or they took something that was good and made it awful. So,
You're talking about the Full Gear match, though, against America's Top Team.
Yeah.
With the Toasters. Yeah. Yeah.
Here's the thing. I don't think we even bother with another nomination. It's Inner Circle all the way.
I think it is, in fact, the Inner Circle. I mean, at least there's some redeeming qualities. Like, Sammy Guevara is a good talent in the Inner Circle. At least there is some redeeming quality to them. Santana and Ortiz aren't the worst. They're just not treated right. There's really nothing redeemable about Matt Hardy's squad. But I will still give it to the Inner Circle just because their relevance count is a little bit higher.
Yeah. And they produce worse shit.
Oh, yeah.
Because the thing is that Matt Hardy, the
more prominent worse
done
shit.
Anything this past year.
He's eaten.
Yep. I would rather like bring Retribution back because it's gonna be dumb, but I know they're gonna lose, and it's gonna be funny watching them lose. But with Inner Circle,
y'all.
That's right. Oh,
the
terrible.
feud with Max Lambert or whatever his name is.
Dan Lambert.
Dan Lambert and his whole thing. Just the most skippable, pointless, why the fuck is this still happening horse shit I've seen.
Yeah.
Well, save it because it may be in the worst category next.
Well, the next category we've got, and well, it just might actually, is Feud of the Year.
Oh, dear God.
And this is going to be kind of difficult because with AEW, they don't really do a ton of rematches, but they do occasionally. And so it's not like you either got really, really, really long, prolonged sagas or hot-shotted stuff that's over before it starts. And I believe this is, once again, my first nomination here for Feud of the Year. It's hard. It's hard to choose one because there's a lot of them that were good and a lot of them that weren't. But the one that had the most consistent matches, even though it's WWE, so, take that for what it's worth. But at least the people involved treated it with the respect it deserved. And every match they had was solid. Even the ones I didn't watch, like the ones in Saudi Arabia, but every match they had was solid. I'm going to go Edge and Seth Rollins.
That's a good one.
For this set of matchups, because a lot of them, they were like promos and then one match and then that was it. Like Reigns and Cena or even Punk and Kingston, I thought about as well. But again, those were one-offs. So, they happen. There's great promos. It's a great feud and then it's done. So it doesn't really have the longevity that something like Edge and Rollins had, because they had a series of matches that were all very, very good, or went from good to very good.
And the callbacks to 2014.
And the Brood entrance, which was awesome.
Oh my God, the Brood entrance was so bad.
Loved that. So that was one of the few things that actually made me pop during that show. I forget which one it was. Was that WrestleMania Backlash? Was that SummerSlam?
SummerSlam.
Okay, good.
Yeah, it was
SummerSlam.
Good. JoshAgeddon, your nominee.
I considered picking Edge and Rollins, and I would have if they didn't do the Seth Rollins house invasion thing. I thought that was a little too silly.
Oh, yeah. Forgot about that.
But I loved how they consistently used the curb stomp, because Seth Rollins hit the curb stomp like once in that feud, and the one time he hit it, Edge was in the hospital.
Yep.
That was probably my favorite part of that feud. Plus, the matches were just great. But you mentioned the one I'm picking a minute ago. It was a one-off, but leading up to it and the match itself, fantastic. I'm going with Punk and Eddie Kingston, because it was the most real-feeling feud of the entire year.
And match. Sky?
Son of a bitch, you both took mine.
All right, well, then we have two.
No. I have one. I'm not going to put this one as my nomination, but I am going to mention it even if I'm not a personal fan of it. We have to mention Paige and Omega because that has been going on for years. And it's built up to the moment that Paige won the world title, and that's all great.
Yeah, no,
But-
that's fair.
But they didn't feel like stars. And this feud has guys who feel like stars. And even if it's ongoing, it has been the most compelling stuff WWE has done. It has to be Roman Reigns versus Brock Lesnar.
Can you imagine saying that like a couple of years ago that Brock and Roman are would have another feud?
Yeah,
It's actually good.
that we might actually halfway accept Reigns Brock at WrestleMania for the 4th time.
Can you imagine going back in time and telling us, "Hey, they're going to do it again, except this time you're going to like it."
Yeah,
Well, the difference is that they have them in the right roles.
yeah. Well,
That is
that's
true.
true. That's definitely true. Because Paul Bunyan Lesnar is my favorite Lesnar.
Yes,
Samurai Viking.
Viking Lumberjack.
That's right.
Is the best.
I love it. And so it's also worthwhile. I wish that there was more of a conclusion. We will find out on day 1 tomorrow. How that all went
Oh
down.
God, there's a pay-per-view tomorrow. I
And see
forgot.
whether Paul Heyman. Yeah, that's going to be our first Court-Martail podcast episode of 2022. Is reviewing day 1.
Ish. Down
Ish.
hitch.
Ish.
You knew it was going to happen.
That's right.
Get ready for a bunch of Uso references when we come to review that paper.
Yeah, which
We should just make the logo for the thumbnail for that video just Jimmy Uso's beer bottle.
what's the sponsor for that show? Because we got to be prepared for a battle royal with that included in it.
Budweiser.
Is it really? Is it really Budweiser? No way. No way. It's Budweiser.
It should be, please.
It should be,
God.
but it won't be. There's no way.
I don't think either Budweiser or Bud Light, one of the two. Actually, maybe he's more of a Heineken guy. I'm not sure.
So,
Anyways,
feud of the year.
but I agree with you, Sean. The issue with Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar is that it's still ongoing. We haven't seen the conclusion. I actually think Edge and Seth Rollins was better because they had the conclusion to their feud, and it was good stuff. It's the feud that we want to see since that reference that happened all those years ago.
Yeah. And it's not to take anything away from Punk and Kingston. Trust me, that match is going to get nominated with me later. And
All right.
it's because that feud was great, and I loved the match, but it was what? 1 promo, 1 match.
Yeah. And a backstage confrontation.
And a backstage confrontation. But,
But that was what, maybe a month or so?
It was a month.
Rollins and
It
Edge
was about a
both
month.
for at least a few months.
All right, I will concede this one. I'm going Seth Rollins and Edge.
All right, so Rollins and Edge versus Edge, which means, JoshAgeddon, your worst feud of the year. You are
Why
the
do
first
they
to
keep
nominate.
doing this to me? Randy Orton versus Bray Wyatt.
Oh,
Why
yeah.
do they keep doing this to me?
Yeah. That's
Every single motherfucking time they do this to me, it sucks an unholy amount of ass.
Vince will not die until Randy Orton and Bray Wyatt have a passable match.
No, like it literally ended the career of Bray Wyatt.
It did. It did.
In 2017, it was shit. In 2016, it was shit. In 2020, surprise, surprise, it was shit. In 2021, it was so shit that Bray Wyatt got fired.
Yeah.
Why the fuck?
It's about like 8 or 9 good points you just made.
Sean, I don't think I can nominate another one after
I
that.
don't have a rebuttal
Holy
for that.
fuck,
I mean,
why? I've been railing against this for literal years at this point. 5 years of my life taken from me because of this goddamn feud.
yeah, it's been pretty bad. It's been pretty bad.
I'm all hot and bothered now.
Oh Lord, Skylar.
How do I follow that?
Oh,
up?
you gotta come up with somebody.
Like for fuck's sake, dude.
JoshAgeddon
God.
quickly making a late run. JoshAgeddon versus WWE Creative.
Yeah. Well,
Rice and bicycle.
I don't think I can pick one that's going to beat that one, but I'm going to pick one anyways because it's just awful. It's gone nowhere. And really, when you think about it, it's the start of the decline. And again, I have to mention this guy, Cody Rhodes versus QT Marshall.
That was a pretty bad one.
yeah, that didn't really do anything, did it? Well,
And it was the start of Cody's decline because he made that promo against Anthony Ogogo. He had the wrestling matches with
that match,
QT Marshall, the trainer of his school, and all that dumb stuff.
That
it really
match
didn't do anything for them.
That match at Double or Nothing with Cody and Anthony Ogogo was arguably the worst Cody match I've ever seen.
It was really bad.
It was really bad.
And don't be surprised if it's my nomination later on.
Yeah, it could be. The feud I'm going to choose is one that is it's one of those ones where you knew about a month in that nobody was going to get anything real out of it. The person who should get things out of it isn't going to get things out of it, and the person who shouldn't get things out of it is going to get things out of it. But he didn't get things out of it anyway because, he's just everything he touches turns to shit. And this was a feud that went on for almost a year and would not end. Trials and the struggles or the passion of the Jericho, whatever the fuck they called it, with Nick fucking Pizza Cutter and Juventud Guerrera for no reason. And just, it was a feud that would not stop. It would not end, even with a monstrously cool faction like the Pinnacle Callaway Max Flight Golf Ball Series. And that feud, and the person who should have won that wasn't, because he's a heel, and you can't have a heel win a feud, can you? No, especially when there are plastic pig ribs to put into the football stadium. Have I mentioned that before? My worst feud of the year is MJF versus Chris Jericho. It was awful from the start. It never got better, and it did nobody any favors.
Went on
9 months. 9 fucking months. But
Bray Wyatt's dead.
As bad as it was, it did not go on.
Dude, this went on for 5 years.
Bray Wyatt is dead.
5 motherfucking years.
So
of this shit.
I think we have a winner.
Do I need to remind you guys of the bugs in the ring at WrestleMania?
Oh no, I remember. I remember.
The upside down Randy Orton Titantron that I can do on my own editor in my sleep.
Oh man.
You know what the worst part is about that House of
The Inferno match.
The Inferno match reaction set him on fire. Weird zombie molten at the end of Revenge of the Sith burning alive.
And his
Randy Orton versus Alexa Bliss.
And his burnt up Shredder costume.
Regenerates himself and loses at WrestleMania.
Oh
Never
man.
forget. Hold on, Randy Orton versus Alexa Bliss
at Mania, and then got fired. And Alexa Bliss sat on Randy's Orton.
Yes, I remember that.
Jesus.
Oh man.
I just feel so bad that Randy Orton's wife was offended.
Yeah. All right. Well, we're halfway there, folks. It is an hour and 20 minutes into this
Randy
show.
Orton win for worst of the year, please.
Well, we're getting there. It is now. We kicked off the first half with the best male and best and worst male, so we might as well kick off the second half of this program with the best female and the worst female.
Okay.
But just because I want us to end on a happy note, we will start with the worst for this half, and we'll end with the best on this half. So we all feel happy that something redeemable came out of 2021. So,
I'm still angry.
Skylar, I know you are. Skylar, the worst female wrestler of the year.
I have not liked any of this woman's work. She has actively hurt people with her booking, with her wrestling, and more importantly, she just has not done anything for me, really, for the last few years. And unfortunately, she's a fucking queen. Charlotte Flair.
That's a good pick.
It is a good pick. It is a good pick because consistently all year she has not been great at all.
That fucking moonsault.
That moonsault is arguably the worst thing in the history of history.
Did you see the one that she tried to do on Toni Storm on SmackDown before Toni Storm quit?
No, I didn't.
It was the worst I have ever seen in my life. It was so horrendous.
She literally moonsaulted over Toni Storm to the point where Toni had to basically bump herself.
Yeah, it's not the first time.
No, Sean. This was worse. However bad you think it is, it's worse.
Well, I believe it. I definitely believe it. And it's going to be difficult to choose a worst women's wrestler of the year because I think blanket statement, women's wrestling in 2021 has been really bad.
It's not because of the women. It's because of how they've been booked by their respective companies.
Well, most of the time it's because of the way they've been booked by their respective companies.
Most of the time.
Most of the time. Not all the time. And
then you have my pick, which I'll get to in a second.
My nomination is somebody who it takes a certain amount of skill to have the entire business cheer when you get fired. But there's a reason. There's a reason that the entire business cheered when you got fired. Because we all knew that not a single booker was going to book you ever again. And this person, I believe, won it. No, Asuka won it last year. And she's out on Skid Row somewhere. Selling hibachi out on Madison Avenue or whatever she's doing. But in any case, my nominee is the perennial, I'm glad that we'll never see her again. This is the only time she'll be able to win this award. Nia Jax.
That's a good pick. I feel like that's the winning quote right there, the winning argument. The business itself cheered when she was fired.
Yeah.
That is depressing.
Yeah. Yeah. JoshAgeddon, your nomination.
Honestly, I'm going to side with you, Sean, but I originally picked Eva Marie because she's just the worst.
The hard part with Eva Marie is that she hadn't been around for the entire year.
Yeah.
The time was still atrocious. Like, I'll never forget Alexa Bliss DDTing her to win the match, and before Eva could, roll over to be pinned, she moved her hair out of the way.
She moved her hair out of the way and then rolled the wrong direction.
Yep.
So Alexa Bliss had to be like, no, get your ass over here. That was so funny.
No sold a DDT to fix her hair.
That's right. That was, yeah.
Jesus.
I didn't think about that one.
On the entire year, we would have picked her hands down.
Yeah.
But that moment right there.
But the thing about it is that we have two nominees that are realistic: Charlotte and Nia Jax.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And Nia Jax started this year. They both started this year in the same match because Charlotte and Asuka won the tag belts from Shayna and Nia, the Real Hurt Business.
Yeah.
And Nia, remember the matching Swarovski crystal cheeks that they had for WrestleMania?
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. And some of the stuff that Nia said. Was my hole this year or was that last year?
It was this year.
No, my hole was last year when she was feuding with Lana.
Oh,
right.
yeah.
Remember when she put Lana to a table 84
9 times. 9 times in a row. And then Lana was fired. Yep. And, yeah. I mean, the thing is with Charlotte is that Charlotte's matches have been bland and boring for a long time. And it's only gotten worse the more cosmetics that she's gotten done. And I don't necessarily disagree with the fact that Charlotte hasn't been in this year, but kind of on the same basis as why JoshAgeddon picked Goldberg. I never felt afraid that Charlotte was actually going to hurt someone significantly while she was in the ring, unless she botched the moonsault. Nia Jax, every time that Nia Jax was in the ring with somebody, I'm like, with Charlotte, they had the thing with Charlotte when they got a little familiar with each other.
Yeah.
You know, it's just, and Charlotte, at least for the most part, is safe. Even with somebody like Becky, where they had the actual, like, somewhat shoot with them, that match was boring because it was the exact same match we've seen 6 times, but it was a safe match. It went the way that we expected it to go. Nia Jax could have ended a career at any moment.
But we had to also consider that Charlotte Flair is the person who has held down women's wrestling so she can remain on top. Woo. Who's that remind you of? Woo. I'm going to keep doing it. Woo.
Yeah.
But did that make Ric Flair the worst wrestler of the year? I'm not saying he wasn't a dick for doing what he did, but did that make him a bad wrestler? And I'm not saying Charlotte's in Ric's league. She's not, but does that qualify her to be the worst female wrestler when really her in-ring work is really not the problem?
Well, here's the thing, Josh. Again, who are you voting for?
Yeah, you got to be the tiebreaker here.
I hate both of them. So
Me too.
Both, but I'm going with Nia Jax. Again, the winning argument is when she was fired, everyone, literally everyone, people in the business cheered.
Plus, there's a good chance that Charlotte's going to win this award next year.
Yeah. This was a close one. This is probably the closest one of any one we've had up to now. So a very close second here. Seeing how you were both women's tag champs, you both get one.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we will put Nia Jax, but we will have Charlotte.
But Charlotte is the front runner to win the worst female wrestler next year.
That's right.
Yeah.
But now that we've gone from the outhouse, let's go to the penthouse.
All right.
Best female of the year, and I am the first nominator, and the woman who I think has done the best this year is actually in AEW. She's matured. She's improved. Every time she's in the ring, it's not perfect, but she's putting serviceable matches out. She's interesting. She's really sharpened up her mic skills of late. The fact that she became a crux of the feud between MJF and CM Punk is very big in and of itself. You know, for just how well that this woman has worked. She feels she's the only woman in professional wrestling right now who feels more valuable at the end of this year than she did at the beginning of this year. Dr. Britt Baker, DMD.
That's who I picked. I also picked Dr. Britt Baker.
Okay, so clearly I'm going to have to pick someone who's not Dr. Britt Baker.
Seriously, the most, like, she is like on top of women's wrestling right now. She's great.
Yeah. As much as I love Serena Deeb, she was hurt, and Thunder Rosa has not been treated right.
Yeah.
Right. And for me, I have to pick someone who was at the top of women's wrestling, who started the year as just a hot prospect, but then won the Royal Rumble and got to main event night 1 of WrestleMania. It has to be the EST, Bianca Belair. The work that she has put in this year has been so good. She's improved so much in the ring, on the microphone. She really has shined like a star when they let her be a star.
I agree.
Bianca's a good pick.
I agree. I just wish that they hadn't had her lose in 2 seconds to the rock bottom / manhandle. I'm not going to say it. I can't say it. I can't let the words come out of my mouth.
Slam.
Nope, I'm not going to do it.
My only argument for Britt Baker is that she's in a women's division that sucks because AEW refuses to do anything with their women.
Well, WWE refuses to do anything good with theirs. And you saw how much they really cared about Bianca once she won the title. You know, because she was basically just fodder for Becky to come back.
She had 2 good matches and a feud with Bayley and then got jobbed out.
Yeah. And now where is she at?
I mean, she's on Raw. She's featured, but she's not challenging. It's Liv Morgan. Which
yeah.
It's Liv Morgan.
Yeah, exactly.
Why?
To where...
because Liv Morgan's hot.
Yeah, that's basically the
yeah,
reason.
and so it's... Bianca's definitely very, very, very much improved. Easily the most improved woman of WWE. Hands down. Hands down. So we have 2 nominations. Who do you think, guys? Who do you think is going to be the winner of this one? My vote is still for Dr. Britt, but Bianca is also a very good choice.
I'm going Britt Baker all the way.
I will go with Bianca Belair, but I acknowledge that Dr. DMD has done better.
Okay. Well, by the majority rules, We will have Bianca Belair, who is arguably, unless Britt Baker has a ridiculous year, Bianca Belair very well, if she actually gets back in a prominent position, could win this belt next year. Very easily can win this belt next year.
I feel like Bianca is WWE's Women of the Year.
Yes, absolutely.
Because the other people you could pick were not there for the entire year. Like Bayley got hurt.
Yep.
Sasha was not there for a while. Becky was not there for a while. Charlotte was not there for a while. Bianca put WWE on her back in terms of the women's division.
That's true. And I'm not taking anything away from her as far as main eventing WrestleMania Night 1, because it was a good match, and she did go leaps and bounds. Right? In no way is this not acknowledging what Bianca Belair has done, because she's just as deserving of this Grapply as Dr. Britt.
It's just that Dr. Britt has been the face of AEW's women's division, and Bianca, while being on top, was never the face of the women's division for WWE.
Yeah. So
it's still woo.
And still woo. So, speaking of woo, we've got 4 categories left. We will now go to Tag Team of the Year. We will start with the worst Tag Team of the Year. And JoshAgeddon, you are first.
Honestly, I'm probably going to go with... because I couldn't really think of any tag teams for this. Because, again, tag team wrestling is kind of... Unfortunately, it's irrelevant in modern wrestling today.
Yeah.
So, for worst tag team, I'm just going to go with a tag team where... There was a tag team match earlier this year where I legitimately, while I was watching, I just sat up and said, "This is fucking terrible." So I'm going with the Butcher and the Blade because they fucking suck.
They do suck.
They're
terrible.
Their names are stupid. They look generic as fuck, and they're not that great in the ring.
Fair points. Sky?
Yes, but there's a tag team that has someone in it that's legitimately good and is being wasted by someone who has birds come out of his toes.
Oh, no.
And it's
a good pick.
Randy Orton has had a good year, maybe, if he didn't have Matt Riddle stable to him. Well, a good second half of the year, because that first half of the year was terrible. But anyways, Randy Orton is being wasted teaming with Matt Riddle. RK Bro sucks.
Ever since Matt Riddle made riddles about frying fish because Bobby Fish likes fries while frying fish, his career has plummeted. The second he did that garbage thing with Riddle and Pete Dunne, it was over. It was over. Then he turned into he was always a stoner, but then they turned him into a toddler with a scooter. That's a very good nomination. My nomination for worst tag team of the year is the team I nominated last year. And I believe they won it last year because they are just, every time I see them, I'm like, I don't want to see them. Their promos are bad. Their matches are bad. Their facials are way over the top and bad. And Bianca Belair deserves to hit something better, to be dead honest with you. And that doesn't include fucking Pizza Hut boxes. I'm picking the Street Profits again. Because they still suck and they've got no better. And they're featured just as prominently with worse material.
But they aren't the tag team champions.
That is a true statement. They are not the tag team champions. But they've had title matches.
They are fucking terrible. I'm going with Sean. I'm going with the Street Profits.
I do want to mention that while I did not nominate them, I did consider the Lucha Brothers because I hate the Lucha Brothers.
Yeah.
They have regressed so badly.
And at least Randy Orton's a good wrestler. You
guys are going to love my best tag team of the year.
Are you going to pick the Lucha Brothers?
Well,
nope.
Before we do that, so have the Street Profits become the very first team to win 2 consecutive Grapplys in a year? In 2 years?
They splattered the fans with pizza.
Yeah.
Speckered.
Yeah. You speckered them all with them pizza. Some of it's real, some of it's fake. Find out which on DraftKings.com.
Oh, God. You're going to pick the Young Bucks, aren't you, Joshua?
No, I'm not.
Well, Skylar, it is your nominee for best to start. So,
Day one-ish Usos.
the Usos. Okay. Well, I don't know who the hell to pick here. These tag team wrestling has not been great this year.
Yeah.
Really hasn't been much to say or write home about in WWE, and AEW's tag team scene really only has 2 teams in it because that's the way they like it.
Hold on, AEW has 16 tag teams.
Well, yeah, they've got
That's a
1,004
good
tag teams, but they only have 2 that they actually care about. And those are the Shrimply Pibbles and the Lucha Brothers. And unfortunately, I mean, sadly, if I were a fan of the Lucha Brothers, I would nominate the Lucha Brothers because they put in hard work this year and they did a 1.5 moves to get what they got, which was a 1.5 moves in tag
FTR sucks so bad.
The problem is, I want to nominate FTR, but they're just not used. And when they are, their matches are good, but some of their matches just have not been lately because they're a clash of styles. Like that match with the Lucha Brothers that they had on, what was it, Full Gear?
Yeah.
That match was just not good. It was the worst FTR match I've seen. It was arguably one of the worst matches on the card. That didn't involve Chris Jericho, which obviously won the day on that. Best tag team of the year. I actually kind of have to concur with Skylar because I don't really think that there's any tag team that I'm like, you know what? I'm happy that I watched them tag this year at all, except the Usos. And I haven't loved everything they've done because a lot of the Usos stuff is, it's the Usos. You know what you're getting, but at least you know what you're getting. And unfortunately, I think the Usos.
But at least with the Usos, their work with Roman Reigns, first in the feud with Jay and Roman, which was last year, I know, but it still bears importance. And then when Jimmy came back and his introduction into the fold and the way they've worked for Roman, that has been legitimately good.
Yeah, and considering who's fought for the tag titles on AEW this year, which really hasn't been many proper tag teams, weirdly enough, it just, I don't know. I don't think there's anybody else, at least with people that I enjoy, that I could give this to, other than, I will casually nominate the Lucha Brothers, but in the acknowledgement that subjectively, I am not a fan of their work, but they, like JoshAgeddon said before, they've been doing stuff.
Well, who are you nominating, JoshAgeddon?
RK Bro.
You are part of the problem, sir. You are part of the problem.
Okay, I agree so hard with everything Sean just said. There's no one to pick.
Yeah.
There is no one to pick because tag team wrestling has sucked this year.
Yeah.
Like the best tag team match I've seen this year was at the NXT pay-per-view with the NXT 2.0 show that I actually did sit down and watch. The best match on that show was a tag team match, and it was the 2 Imperium guys whose names I can't think of now. One of them was that muscular, bald guy who was in the Cruiserweight Classic who fought...
Fabian Eichner.
Fabian Eichner, that's his name. That was a good match, and but I haven't seen much of them. It's just one match. I would love to go with Fabian Eichner and whoever his partner is from Imperium. But RK Bro has entertained me. They've had decent matches. I love Randy Orton. I like Matt Riddle, even though I hate the stupid birds flying out of his toes and the scooter thing's weird. And I'm kind of like, the other option would be the Usos, but I just don't care about the Usos that much. When I see them, I'm like, that's Roman Reigns' henchman. End of story.
Yeah.
Full stop.
Yeah, the only other team that I could think of that we could add into this mix just to put a third name, just because of the way that they've introduced the guy, and I don't agree with the fact that they're now breaking them up because they're dumb like that because it's WWE, would be AJ Styles and Famous Amos.
Well, here's the thing. Did you hear about what happened with the Madison Square Garden show?
Famous Amos ate some cookies?
No, they did AJ Styles versus Omos in New York, and reportedly that match was so terrible, they decided to end their feud because Omos can't have a good match on his own yet.
Yeah. I don't know how they thought that 10 months later was going to be enough time for almost to be a singles wrestler.
WWE has a fucking boner for breaking up tag teams.
And big men.
Yeah.
So who are our nominees?
So our nominees
Lucha
for
Brothers, Randy Orton and Matt Riddle and the Usos. God.
Yep.
I
I guess it'll be the Usos because again, there's no
by
no one to
default.
pick.
Yeah.
By
There's no one
default.
to pick.
Yeah. It's
Wait, hold on, Sean. Who won the worst again?
the worst was the Street Profits. That's right. So the Usos pick up the Grapply. They're second tonight after winning Stable of the Year as well with Roman Reigns.
Sean, Skylar, as soon as you said RK Bro for your worst, I just about busted out laughing because I have that written down as my best. And I was like, oh, are you in for a surprise, bucko?
It would have been amazing if they somehow won worst and best.
Yeah.
Well,
a Grapply for both.
yeah, well, they could. I mean, anything is possible. You know,
In WWE.
in the world of professional wrestling in 2021. Now, I've got my little a little black book here because these are actually we're into the categories where I wrote some stuff down. So the next category is going to be pay-per-view of the year, the worst pay-per-view of the year to start. And I guess it's me first this time. And this one was tough because there's 4 very good nominees for this. There's 4 very good nominees for this. I chose the show that I refused to rank because it was rank. Because everything on that show was just foul. I mean, there was not a I looked through the notes and I couldn't find a redeeming quality in that entire show. And it was normally, I'm like, there's a good show buried underneath like 3 hours of filler with this company, but there was not even a good show in that buried in that 3 hours of filler. It was just bad. It was Russo counters up the ass, and it's going to be probably nominated for best pay-per-view of the year by one of the 3 of us here in just a few short minutes, because this is just the way that this psychotic sociopath decides to make nominations. But but that's not me. So I decided to choose AEW Revolution as the worst pay-per-view this year.
How did you know I was going to pick that?
I knew both of you were going to pick it.
Yes, JoshAgeddon. I mean, I have there's a couple other good nominees though for this award.
Go ahead, go through your list of the ones that you were considering.
Well, I don't want to bury the lead here. I want you guys to make your cases first and see if there's any other ones that went on the list. So JoshAgeddon.
Okay, all right. So there was one pay-per-view this year that in our review I gave it a 1 out of 10. Motherfucking Extreme Rules.
That's on my list.
Was so bad. Like, I used to love Extreme Rules. Like, even though like it was the beginning of when they started doing gimmick pay-per-views, like Extreme Rules, Hell in a Cell, TLC, and that's not the greatest idea. But with Extreme Rules, you can do different stipulation matches throughout the show.
Yeah,
I feel like Extreme Rules is the one gimmick pay-per-view that could work.
Yeah.
You can do so many different matches and say, that's a extreme match. Jesus Christ. It has fallen so far.
Yep. Welcome to Extreme Rules, where it won't be extreme and there are no rules.
Up until the main event, for the most part, it was a fucking snooze fest. It was so boring. And the way the main event ended was such a slap in the face, middle finger, dick up your ass of a move.
Yeah.
It was so awful, and it ruined the Demon, which was something I loved a couple of years ago. I loved the Demon, and then they ruined it with their stupid horror movie hocus pocus bullshit.
Yeah. Yeah, that was on my list.
The second Finn Balor started fucking the floor, I was done.
Yeah. The floppy fish was bad.
Yeah,
Very
with the
bad.
lights going out every time he humped the ground.
Skylar?
You guys took 2 of my nominees. This is tough. Because there was a lot of bad pay-per-views. And they all happened towards the end of the year, too, which sucked.
I don't know. Fastlane was pretty bad.
That was, yeah, but I feel like were it not for the main event of this particular event, this show would have sucked. And it's sad to see what WrestleMania Night 2 representing WrestleMania had become, because were it not for that main event, that show would have gotten a 0 out of 10 for me.
That was on my list.
Especially starting off with Randy Orton and Bray Wyatt.
Yeah.
Yeah. God, here we go again.
That's right. More flashbacks are back.
I have to vote for AEW Revolution because that's the show I did give a 0 out of 10.
Yeah.
The funny thing is, I'm the only one who liked both AEW Revolution and WrestleMania Night 2. I liked both of those shows. I guess I'm just weird.
Well, Extreme Rules was bad. Was very bad. And all three of those shows made my list. There's only one show that we did not mention. And it was Survivor Series. Because that show was as equal parts hot garbage to the rest of these shows. And really, I'd like to open up the floor for all four of these nominees because I think they all are worthy of this accolade. It really just depends on which one was overall the worst. What do you think did the most damage?
Exploding barbed wire.
One of them killed one of the coolest gimmicks in WWE.
Yeah, well, you could say that for two if you really liked what Bray Wyatt was doing.
Yeah.
You could say that about WrestleMania 37 too. The only reason I don't put WrestleMania Night 2 on is because that triple threat match actually was good. You know, Survivor Series had no redeeming qualities. I mean, Extreme Rules had no redeeming qualities.
The Roman Reigns and Big E match was good. The Charlotte and Becky match was good, even if it was a disappointment. That saves it for me.
Yeah. So it's really down to Revolution and Extreme Rules. And
my vote's Extreme Rules.
And both
I like Revolution.
Revolution can go fuck itself.
Both of those shows were equal parts ass.
I guess it's majority rules then.
Yeah, I mean, but again, Extreme Rules. I think that if we wanted to do this, the worst AEW pay-per-view was Revolution. The worst WWE pay-per-view was Extreme Rules.
The Extreme Rules is the worst pay-per-view I've seen in a long time.
Yeah, they were. But WWE, to be fair, AEW only had one pay-per-view on this list. WWE had three.
That is true.
You know,
because AEW doesn't do pay-per-views.
That is
smartly.
If AEW did like more pay-per-views, like if they did 6 a year, which is I think the optimal number, 6 to 8.
Yeah,
they would be in a lot more categories.
Well, you don't like having 14 pay-per-views a year, Skylar?
Obviously not.
14 to 16. You mean you don't like having a pay-per-view literally a week after the last one?
Obviously.
I still cannot believe they had Payback 1 week after SummerSlam last year.
Yeah. Well, it's just like...
Bray Wyatt got to hold the belt for 1 week.
Bray Wyatt got to hold the belt for one fucking week.
Oh, my God. That's right. Well, yeah, but that was worthwhile as far as doing that for Roman Reigns. I mean, you really wanted Bray Wyatt to keep hold of that belt?
Can you believe that the person that held the belt before Roman, who's still holding the belt, was Bray Wyatt, the Fiend? I cannot believe that.
You know, a trivia question.
It was bad enough that they put the belt on the Fiend the first time to lose it to Goldberg, but it's worse when you put the belt on the Fiend a second time, knowing that you had to pin him again, even though they didn't, because I think they had Braun take the pin, right?
Yeah,
it was a triple threat. But
who cares?
Still, remember that? Remember the swamp fight? Oh, yeah. Extreme Rules. Boy, what a pay-per-view that's been.
Again, Bray Wyatt and Braun Strowman.
The eyeball match.
Now, let's shift gears to the best pay-per-view this year.
Oh, God.
Let's move on before we all get angry and bust a capillary.
Hold on. So officially, are we splitting that worst pay-per-view of the year?
We're still going to call it AEW Revolution, but we're going to put the acknowledgement that WWE's worst. WWE gets an honorary Grapply for having a really garbage show as well. So now, best pay-per-view. This one, JoshAgeddon. You lead.
Hold on, didn't we just do this one?
No, we did the worst. Now we're doing the best.
Sorry, I didn't know there was good pay-per-views this year.
There were a couple. There were a couple.
I'm going to go with AEW All Out because I really enjoyed the show. That was the first match CM Punk had back. So I'm going with All Out.
All right. Well, moving right along. Not paid by the hour.
I kind of also want to go with WrestleMania Night 1 because that was such a great show. But CM Punk's my boy, and he had a fantastic match with Darby Allin, and there was also really some good matches on All Out, so I'm going with All Out.
Skylar?
I'll go with WrestleMania Night 1.
Oh, you're going to make me break this tie? Well, full acknowledgement. Whichever one loses is going to get the honorary Grapply for having the best pay-per-view of that year, because these are the two nominees.
Hold on. You can nominate WrestleMania Night 1. I'll throw a third nomination.
Okay.
SummerSlam 2021.
Nah.
SummerSlam wasn't bad, but it took a while to get going.
It had Sheamus versus... Hold on. Let me make my case before I shit all over it, okay?
Okay.
It had Sheamus versus Damian Priest, which was a great mid-card match. It had Edge versus Seth Rollins. It had Roman Reigns and John Cena, even if it wasn't a great match. And the return of Viking Samurai Brock Lesnar. And the return of Becky Lynch, even if Becky Lynch kind of ruined Bianca Belair, okay? Are you ready for me to bring the butt?
Yes.
But the rest of that show was ass. Let's move on to the real nominations.
No, that show was WWE's ultimate middle finger to the women's division.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, not that they haven't had many multiple fingers thrown at them before.
Just every variety of a middle finger you could give to a division was on SummerSlam because they had 3 women's matches and each one was a different kind of suck.
Well, I know that the women's division doesn't appreciate getting fingered so much, but that's all they've been doing. That's all that's happened to them for a very long time. So my nomination is going to be, if Skylar's is Night 1, I'm also going to choose WrestleMania 37 Night 1, only because AEW All Out, as good as the matches were, it's a long fucking show.
That is true.
It's a long show, and a lot of those matches had the same kind of filler that WrestleMania 37 just did not. It was crisp, it was clean, it was short, and it got to the point. As much as I didn't like why Bianca and Sasha main evented the show, I will acknowledge the fact that it was a great ending to an otherwise very good show. There wasn't anything offensive. There wasn't anything egregious except for the one Old Spice commercial, but...
No, there was an egregious tag team turmoil match, but you didn't hate it as much as we did.
Yeah, it wasn't as bad as it could have been. So I think personally, I think that Night 1 gets the nod here. Although All Out was a very good show. It was the turning point for AEW.
Mania Night 1.
Yeah.
I would concede Mania Night 1.
But I will say this, though.
Hold on. Were AEW shows shorter and didn't have as much stuff going on and had more of the quality and cut out the bad stuff, they would be better pay-per-views.
You cut the match times in half of every AEW match they have, I'd love it. But everything goes on forever because they have to do 1,000 moves in it. But WrestleMania 37 Night 1, and I will give the credit to All Out for 2021 because I will say this, which is why it's worthy of the honorary Grapply here. AEW All Out was what I felt was the true turning a corner moment for AEW when momentum actually started to shift and you could feel like they were starting to develop better programming. That's where it started to change. To where, while it wasn't as good a show, Full Gear, you actually had some decent expectations going into it that were delivered upon somewhat.
Yeah.
And so
and it helps that the talent that AEW is accruing is much better than the talent it had originally.
Yes.
Even if it was WWE just throwing away leftovers.
Yeah.
You have to acknowledge the fact that AEW's roster is improving.
Yeah. So
meanwhile, WWE's is sputtering and dying.
Yeah. So All Out is 100% significant. But I would also make the claim that it's thoroughly possible that WrestleMania 37 Night 1 might be the last good wrestling pay-per-view WWE ever produces, at least under the current administration.
Also, you can't forget this. It was the first it was the first one without the Thunderdome.
Yeah. Which made a difference.
The end of the Thunderdome, which is a massive plus.
Which got that half-an-hour rain delay at first, so we got organic promos from people.
Which was
great.
to even think about.
Which was another plus. Now we get to do one of my favorite. It is the best, and now this category might kind of be synonymous, so I just feel like we'll have to just rattle off the best and the worst because they're about the same. Botch of the year.
How about this?
Oh, no.
We get 2 nominations.
That's right. And you were talking about does somebody win both awards? So the Botch of the year is going to win both the best and the worst because they're kind of synonymous in this context.
There's so many botches I loved this year.
I have
Start naming them off.
3, 4, 5,
For
6.
one, my pick. I'll name my pick last, but some of the ones that I just loved. I loved the Hurricane Rana botch at Revolution.
Yes.
With Marco
Evil
Stunt
Uno.
and Evil Uno. That was hysterical.
That was so funny. Seeing him run to that ring post and just charge head first.
Yeah.
Was
there was some good
brilliant.
WWE botches as well. Although I'm not gonna lie, I'm kind of drawing a blank with some WWE botches. But what I'm picking is the air quotes around ring explosion at the end of AEW Revolution. That was the botch of the year.
Yeah.
That was embarrassing.
That was
so embarrassing.
That was poor Eddie Kingston.
Yeah.
Poor Eddie. But definitely a worthy pick. Skylar?
Well, I mean, hold on. Let's get down to it. 2 nominations. Josh, again, pick another one.
Do you have another one?
I can't think of any right now, not gonna lie.
Well, we'll jog your memory a little
Yeah,
bit.
I got some.
SummerSlam 2021, Damian Priest missing Sheamus.
There's that one. Or when Sheamus tried to do a super white noise on Matt Riddle at night 2 of WrestleMania.
Oh!
Fell off, and he was like, shit, and then he did a normal one.
I felt so bad for him because that match was going so well up to that point.
And the finish
right
of that
there.
match, to be fair, was fantastic.
Yeah.
The upside down bro kick.
Sheamus actually deserves some unsung credit for the work he's put in this year because he has had some good matches across the board, and it's just not in a place of prominence to be a nomination for Wrestler of the Year, but he really has put in some consistently good work this year. So props to you, Sheamus. Honorable mention.
You know what? My other nomination is the Charlotte moonsault on Toni Storm a couple days ago.
Well, we could also do the every Charlotte moonsault.
It's funny. On my list of notes as far as botches, I wrote down every Charlotte moonsault.
What about the one where she almost murdered Nikki Ass?
At SummerSlam 2021. She
Oh.
misses Rhea Ripley, who is the safer woman because she's the bigger woman, and completely destroys Nikki.
And compresses Nikki's spine.
Or how about the time that Charlotte Flair did a double natural selection to Asuka and Rhea Ripley at the pay-per-view after WrestleMania and missed both of them?
Oh, God. Well, what's your nomination, Skylar?
Well, I just named off a couple of them.
So Charlotte's. So the wonderful moonsault work of Charlotte Flair. Well,
natural selection.
I've got some botches here. So we already talked about the Marco Stunt Evil Uno cell. That was the first one that came to my mind. In my line, one of the best. This isn't really a botch, but this is just one of my favorite moments. Is when Titus O'Neil said to Hulk Hogan, "You ain't Little John, ho."
God, I forgot one real quick.
And then they dressed up as pirates.
You remember when MVP hit Goldberg's leg and Goldberg waited a couple seconds and was like, "Oh my leg!"
Yes, yes, I do.
Goldberg.
That wasn't a botch. That was just bad selling.
That was just Goldberg sucking. But
Goldberg sucking at life.
Yeah. All right. Well, we got another one here. We have that one. The halves of pigs in the freezer at Stadium Stampede.
Yeah. Oh God. The MMA guy that mistimed the punch on Jericho in the line.
Oh my God.
The
delay. That one. Yes. That's another good one. The Bad Bunny Booker T music video. At Royal Rumble, where Booker T's sitting there in his GI Bro outfit, just dead staring at the camera, and Bad Bunny's just dancing around him like Shawn Michaels to Diesel.
Again, that's not a botch, but that's funny.
But
that's so random.
That was an incredible moment. That was the highlight of the Rumble.
God.
The fucking egg Survivor Series. That whole angle is a botch.
Oh God.
Let's see another one.
How about this? every time they cut to Vince McMahon talking backstage at Survivor Series, it's so poorly mic'd, he's so old he can't speak.
Unintelligible murmuring of Vince McMahon definitely could be the botch. The superhero miss from Nikki Ash at the Money in the Bank. You had one job. Elbow drop.
Money in the Bank.
Oh God!
That's my first nomination. That's nomination number 1.
From the one at Money in the Bank from the ladder.
Yes, that's my first nomination.
So hard,
My second nomination is the Alexa Bliss Alka-Seltzer at Extreme Rules. That one, to me, was the all-time greatest botch in the history, where you can just see the fucking tablet. That alone was the moment. That was the botch of the year for me.
Well, here's the thing. Here's the thing. That's a great botch, but it was not a promised explosion.
I think between there's a lot of really good botched moments this year.
Oh yeah.
I think that these all are worth Grapplys.
Oh yeah.
These all have earned Grapplys. I think the exploding ring botch is definitely top tier. And I would say either the superhero miss or the Alka-Seltzer has to make the one after that. Although the Stun Rana also gets a good nod. So
you promised an explosion. And it didn't happen.
Promised explosion that was just sprinklers.
Sparklers.
Sprinklers.
Could you imagine just the sprinklers in the arena just turned on? There wasn't even any sparkles or anything like that. It was like premeditation of explosions. So like, oh, it's fire alarm. Trigger the fire.
It's like an Iron Man. It's like an Iron Man when he's in the suit and he falls and lands in the car, and that one guy just starts dousing it with a fire extinguisher.
Yep. I'm gonna put down all 4 of those.
Yeah.
Because they all are worth nominating.
I forgot about the Alka-Seltzer botch. I'm going with that one.
I think they all deserve it.
They all deserve it. I mean, Nikki Ash's one job, this is the only thing she did. She stood up there on that ladder, posed for 14 seconds as they all just shuffled to the spot, dove and missed.
And then won.
And then won.
And then cashed in the night after to become champion.
Oh,
and then lost a couple weeks later.
Oh, Lord Almighty.
Not only did she lose a couple weeks later, she lost just about every match she had up until that point.
Yep. Oh, God. What?
And her gimmick was, well, I almost won.
That's right. So that's our, so we got 4 lists here. The Alka-Seltzer, the Exploding Ring, the Superhero Miss, and the Marco Stunt Evil Uno Hurricane Rana botch.
Hurricane Rana of Doom.
All get, but the Alka-Seltzer was just great. That just makes me laugh. Every time I visualize it in my mind, it just cracks me up.
It's like she tried to spit out a loogie, but she didn't spit hard enough.
Nope. And then she just yeah, amazing. Chew the fucking tablet. Put it under your tongue. Something.
Do like bubble baths. Put it under your tongue.
All right. One more. It is the match of the year.
Sean, before we continue.
Yes.
One that we mentioned several months ago, but I think we all forgot about. Commentary moment of the year that made us just WTF the most.
Which one was that?
My pick is Michael Cole at Saudi Arabia saying that Ali versus Mansoor is the first time we have 2 Muslims in action.
Oh.
That was my WTF commentary moment of the year.
Yeah, that was pretty bad.
I'm here with the national champion of the nation.
It's Memorial Weekend after all.
Oh God, those both belong on the botches list. But I think it is Memorial Day weekend after all has got to be my nominee because that one was hysterical.
Wasn't that last year though?
I don't think so.
Yeah, it was last year.
Was it? Oh no, yeah, I guess it was.
United States Championship match.
Yeah, I think the national championship. Yeah, but both of those were great.
Or the Corey Graves after watching a triple threat United States Championship match at Extreme Rules, and we have a United States Championship match coming up.
Or you know what? I just thought of one too. It's a match I think it was Rollins and Nakamura. It was somebody with Nakamura. And Corey Graves says the line, Shinsuke's thinking about ending it all. Me too, Corey. Me too.
That was Fastlane, by the way.
Yep.
Oh, God.
I
can believe that. I can believe that.
Yep. So now we are here with the worst match of the year. And there's a lot of nominations.
There's a lot of good picks.
Skylar, it is your you are the one to nominate first.
Can I pick two?
You're not allowed to pick the cage match between the Bucks and the Lucha Brothers.
I've got
close, but I didn't pick that one.
I've got a lot of matches on my list, so we could just throw a bunch of nominations onto this one.
Women's Money in the Bank
deserves it.
That was pretty bad.
Obviously, Randy Orton and Bray Wyatt at WrestleMania.
And it comes again.
Why did they keep doing it? Why?
Fair.
Honestly, I'm dead serious. Why did they keep thinking it was a good idea? Why?
Because Vince was determined that they were going to have a good match, damn it.
But you're wrong, though.
He was, but
he fired Bray Wyatt because he realized it's never going to happen.
He was adamant. He was hell-bent. Goddamn, he is taking that ship down. Yep. Amazing. All right, well, I have a lot of different choices here. But I'm going to just choose one, and then we'll read the list of all these other ones that were bad. This matchup, it's the only matchup of all of these that I just looked at it and was like, nope, not watching it. Didn't care what happened with it. Didn't care who won it. Didn't care anything about it because it was so offensive to me. Everything that they had planned for it, everything they executed with it, it did nothing for anybody. Somebody was eaten at the end of it and was fine the next day. My choice for worst match of the year is Damian Priest versus The Miz at WrestleMania Backlash with the Zombie Lumberjacks to promote a fucking movie.
That was really bad. Just the concept of that is really bad.
As soon as I saw that the Lumberjacks were zombies, I'm like, nope. And I tuned out. I didn't watch it. That's the only match all year that I refused to watch.
Bro, that match was so bad that Skylar was begging that Cesaro would not win the Universal title on that night.
Yeah. That's how bad that was. So that's my nomination. Not for lack of a list of bad matches this year, because there were a lot.
And on top of that, The Miz got really badly hurt in that match.
Yeah, he was eaten.
He tore his ACL.
He was eaten alive.
And he had his ACL eaten by zombies.
JoshAgeddon?
Sean, it'll be okay. We'll get through this together, buddy. It'll be okay.
I hate that match. I hate it so much.
Yeah, I know. It is. And they made that matchup with you in mind, Sean.
They had to.
I'm going with God. All of those are good picks. I'm going with the match that I personally hated the most. Was Alexa Bliss versus Eva Marie, because it was just so goddamn horrendous from literally everything they did. Like, them walking around the ring in that match was bad.
Yeah.
But that's my pick. But I'm going with the zombie match because that is just the most. This is all fake and a joke match of the year.
Underratedly, The Miz has had a terrible year. Think about this for a second. He wins Money in the Bank from Otis, then cashes in on Drew McIntyre to become champion, only to cop out to Bobby Lashley, loses at WrestleMania to Damian Priest and a rapper, then gets eaten by zombies, then SummerSlam the Dipstick.
And now he's feuding with Edge for reasons.
Underratedly, The Miz has had a terrible year.
Yeah,
literally the only reason why he's feuding with Edge is because he got name dropped on AEW. That's the only reason.
Have we picked best and worst male?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's how we started.
The Miz I feel like you need to send a congratulatory one to The Miz because you had a terrible year.
Yeah, but he was also out for most of it, and I don't know. I don't think that The Miz is as egregious as Cody Rhodes. But in any case, It's
But yeah, that zombie match.
I think it's got to go to
Zombie
the
match.
zombie match. But I have a list of bad matches. Would you like to hear them?
Yes.
Hold on. So zombies at Backlash or at WrestleMania Backlash because it's not just Backlash anymore.
It's always been Backlash. It's always going to be Backlash.
Nope, wrong. WrestleMania Backlash. That's what it's always been. It's how it's always going to be called.
No.
Yes. Sit down.
Not me.
Pay your work.
Not me.
Pay your $5. Watch me on the Peacock. So, anyway, best and worst the worst matches. Here's my list. Any match involving Sasha and Bianca Belair versus Nia Jax and Shayna Baszler.
There are only 2 of them.
800 of them.
Either work because they were both bad. Moxley and Omega at Revolution, the exploding barbed wire match. Randy Orton versus Alexa Bliss at Fastlane, where she threw a fireball above him
and made lights fall down almost on him because she could use the force.
Yes, because that one was Thunderdome and that one was Thunderdome and bad.
And then she dry humped him.
Yep, that was the only redeeming quote. It's the only reason why I didn't nominate it. And I'm like, oh, it's starting to get interesting. And then
Now the thing is that had we had seen Randy Orton's boner, that would have been match of the year.
Yeah.
Well, maybe for you two. Well,
yeah.
But Orton
Indeed.
and Wyatt, WrestleMania 37 Night 2, here it comes again.
Mother.
Let's see. Stadium Stampede, Double or Nothing. Deserves it. As was mentioned, the women's Money in the Bank. Roman Reigns and Finn Balor at Extreme Rules.
That was so bad.
Becky Lynch and Bianca Belair at SummerSlam. I know that was only an angle, but it's still a match. The Lucha Brothers and FTR at Full Gear. Cody versus Anthony Ogogo at Double or Nothing. The Inner Circle versus America's Top Team at Full Gear. And the Rock Pizza Hut Battle Royal.
Ooh.
All good nominees, all worthy nominees, but none of them zombies.
Also, Cody and Pac versus Malachi and Andrade.
Yeah, that match
was just uninteresting. That wasn't bad. That was just uninteresting.
Yeah. They didn't have any. They didn't have any match structure to that. But
that's
now,
the thing is that we're talking about horrendous. It has to be so bad that we want to turn off the TV, or in Sean's case, fast forward.
That's right. Well, so here we are, sheet nearly completed. We got one more slot. It is Match of the Year. And thankfully, there were quite a few nominees for Match of the Year as well.
Why, yes, there were.
So I, once again, will go through my notes. I'm not going to read all my nominees yet, but I will start with the one. There were a lot of good choices. There were 2 matches on night 1 of WrestleMania. Even WrestleMania Backlash had a Match of the Year contender. There was quite a lot. NXT UK had a good one. Winter is Coming had a great one with the Hour Broadway, which definitely might be nominated by somebody else. Punk and Allen was also great. There's a ton of other matches that were quite good for what they had. But the match that I chose was the match that felt the most intense, the match that felt the most like wrestling, and the match that felt the most like a fight. It wasn't the flashiest. You weren't getting chain wrestling out of it, but I felt more in this match than anything else I've seen all year. Was it the wrestling classic? No. Was it supposed to be? No. But did it accomplish everything it set out to and more, and with an investment that I felt was easily the best of anything that anyone has done all year? Absolutely. My nomination is CM Punk versus Eddie Kingston at Full Gear.
That's a good pick.
JoshAgeddon.
That is probably my number 2. But there was a match that I saw that was I felt was even better because you know me, I'm a Dragon Ball Z fan. And there's a lot of fights in that show where people get punched through mountains, energy blasts flying everywhere, planets exploding.
That does tend to happen.
There was a wrestling match this year that made me feel like I was watching a Dragon Ball Z fight because it was so fucking insane. And that was at the very end of the NXT that we all knew and loved. It was NXT TakeOver 36 before it became NXT 2.0. And that was Ilya Dragunov versus Walter for the UK title.
Yep.
That match was fucking art.
Spectacular.
Fucking beautiful. And I loved every second of it. They beat the fucking snot out of each other. They both were bruised, battered, and torn after that match. The strikes were just brutal and devastating. It was amazing. That was my favorite match of the year.
Their match in 2020 was also a nominee, and this one is worthy nominee. It's a great match.
It is.
I thought it was better somehow.
They did an equal job, if not better.
Yeah, that match was phenomenal.
Skylar.
This is gonna be tough, but the crown jewel, if you will, of Roman Reigns' title reign so far, defeating two future legends of the business. Well, one legend and one currently becoming a legend. Edge and Daniel Bryan, WrestleMania Night 2.
Interesting.
That's an interesting pick.
Interesting.
Despite the fact that it was a triple threat, it was a fun match. It was a match that had everything in it, and it had the right winner, and it was just beautiful to watch.
It was.
The finish was fantastic. The finish was beautiful.
Yes, I do agree. The only reason I think that doesn't win it for me is just that I think about what that match could have been, which was just a one-on-one match, and they kind of
which we got later on with both of them.
Yeah, we did. Roman got a match with Daniel Bryan, which was Daniel Bryan's last match, and also a really good one. And the match at Money in the Bank with Edge was also good. Yeah.
I didn't nominate Money in the Bank because I had too much interference.
Yeah, it was, and the Charles Robinson sitting there like watching for 5 minutes. Yeah.
If they had brought a referee within 1 minute and not 5.
Yep. Yeah. That was but yeah, I mean, it's not that match wasn't great. It was. It was there were a lot of matches on that show that could merit it. You know,
well, Sean, go through your other list because there may be something that we're forgetting.
Well, yeah, let me read through the list of matches, and we'll see if we can come up with our one big match. Drew McIntyre versus Bobby Lashley, WrestleMania 37, Night 1.
Also worthy.
Seth Rollins versus Cesaro, WrestleMania 37, Night 1.
Brought back the UFO.
Roman Reigns.
Mention Bianca Belair versus Sasha Banks.
Yep. Roman Reigns versus Cesaro, WrestleMania Backlash.
Backlash.
It was tragic that we all knew that was going to be the one and only title shot Cesaro was ever going to get, but goddamn was that match insane. Weird pick for me, but I thought that for what it did and for what it was supposed to be, it was perfect. Bobby Lashley kicking the teetotal shit out of Kofi Kingston at Money in the Bank.
You know what? I agree.
Of course, Walter Dragunov.
That Bobby Lashley Kofi is probably the best squash match of the year.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Agreed.
Adam Page versus Bryan Danielson. Winter is Coming. Hour-long Broadway. It's very hard to find an hour-long match where I don't get tired of watching it at some point in it. But boy, it was captivating the whole way through. And then Punk and Darby Allin at All Out. And
I have my own bonus nomination, although not really nomination. I just thought it was a good match. I loved Bryan Danielson versus Kenny Omega.
Also serviceable. Also definitely a serviceable match. And, and not for nothing, but Edge and Rollins at Crown Jewel. Their Hell in a Cell match was also quite good.
That bump where Edge shoved him into the cage and Seth bounced off the cage through a table, that was sick.
Yeah. Yeah. So there was a lot of good matches in this year. It's just that they were kind of packed into different spots. It's interesting because a lot of what we've described are all different styles of match. So like CM Punk and Eddie Kingston is a fight. That could easily be the best fight of the year. Where, you have a match like Walter Dragunov, which is a hard-hitting, more of, a technical classic. Whereas, as far as what they did with the triple threat, as far as not only making it entertaining, but also adding brawl aspects and having technical aspects in it. All three of those nominees are very good picks. But only one will earn the Grapply of the year.
Since Eddie Kingston and CM Punk was my number 2, I'm giving it to that one.
Are you not going to put an argument up for yours?
I mean, I'm standing by Ilya Dragunov versus Walter because that was a fucking. They both went Super Saiyan in that match.
That match was a clinic.
Great. It was an absolute clinic, and I love matches like that. But I also loved CM Punk and Eddie Kingston.
I think had that match been for a more prestigious title, like if it had been for the WWE or Universal title, it probably would have won outright.
I also
hey, say what you will about it, but Roman Reigns has done great work with Universal Championship.
Oh, absolutely. I will not deny. I still hate that belt less now, actually, because Roman Reigns has held it.
Yeah.
It's amazing what halfway decent booking can do about my opinions of a belt.
Yeah. I also feel just, not to take anything away from either Walter or Ilya, but I also think that if there had been more emotion poured into that match and there had been more built, I hate to sound McMahonish, but if there had been more kind of to get promos that were really engaging into that, and it really felt, the palpable raw emotion out of it, the way that you felt the palpable raw emotion from Punk and Kingston. That one didn't have to have wrist locks in it, but you felt the tone and they executed that tone perfectly. And not that Walter and Ilya didn't, because it was a clinic. Like we said, it was an absolute clinic. But as far as having the total package of everybody got what they needed to out of it, as well as having the prominence of it and the emotion that leads to people wanting to see another match from them, I don't know. I feel like it goes just ever so slightly to Punk and Kingston.
And I do agree. If you want more of a total package, like feud and match, then I would also go Punk and Kingston.
It also goes without stating that article that what was it? That Eddie Kingston wrote for the Players Tribune documenting his wrestling lifestyle before he became AEW and even during AEW.
Yeah.
It is tragic. It's heartbreaking. It's a tough read. And it's not for the faint of heart, but I would recommend people read that because there are moments within reading that article that you could feel that Eddie Kingston, any day, it would just take one bad day and he wouldn't be around anymore. And we have to acknowledge that he's here and we should appreciate the things that he does. And that match with CM Punk unequivocally was the fight of the year, and I think it's a worthy match of the year.
Yeah. And then as far as technical contest goes, I think Walter and Ilya definitely gets, it definitely deserves, kind of the honorary Grapply for that as well, because it was also tremendous. There was a lot of people who did a great job this year, in their matches, and we've got a lot of good ones. So, this is why I wanted to end on a positive, because for every time that we think that the state of wrestling is awful, there are these small glimmers of light that make us thankful to be wrestling fans.
Agreed.
And I cannot think of a better way to close out 2021 than with that. So what a show. What a surprise, guys. We went 2.5 hours.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
But this is just what
and only one of those hours was me ranting about Bray Wyatt and Randy Orton.
That's right.
Fucking again.
Which deserved
Just wait until Bray Wyatt wins the Royal Rumble and then Randy Orton wins the WWE
God,
Championship.
could you imagine? Could you imagine? Yeah, that would be the worst. That would be the worst. Well, here's the list, folks, of all of our nomination wins and losses, the Grapplys, another award show in the books. What a great 2021 we have had. And while we take this moment as we wrap up, I just want to say from the bottom of my heart, and I know Skylar agrees with this too, what a tremendous year this has been for the Court-Martail podcast, with the subscriber count going up by almost 200%. I mean, not even 200%, almost 1,000% from where we started the year to now. It's been an absolute incredible ride. All the views, all of you guys coming along for the ride. Thank you so much for making 2021 a really groundbreaking year for the Court-Martail podcast and for the Totally Awesome podcast as well, because we love having this relationship with us down there in South Cakalacky.
Oh yeah.
And
speaking of which, I'm also, for the end of the year, not tonight or anything like that, but sometime soon I'm going to be putting together at the end of the year I always do a best of TAW gaming video. In this montage, since there have been a lot of really funny moments on our podcast, I'm going to be inserting moments from our shows, like our wrestling reviews, and maybe from this one as well,
Yes.
to that compilation video. And it's actually going to be a live premiere whenever I'm done making the video.
So there you go. So you got a lot to look forward to.
Count how many moments we each break during reviews.
Yes, I was going to say.
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Podcast breaks. That could be a video in and of itself.
Yeah, just us losing our minds.
Just laughing our asses off for one reason or another because we're making jokes or whatever.
Well, at the end of the day, I love the kids.
Yeah.
It's not a frog. It's not a frog splash. It's a whale breach.
Oh God, that absolutely demolished me.
Yep.
That broke me as hard as the I love the kids broke Sean and Skylar.
Yep, that's great. Which pieces of pizza are real and which are fake? Bet now on DraftKings.com.
That was also a really good one.
No.
Titus O'Neil.
Never again.
Chris Jericho's so fat that Titus O'Neil slid underneath him at Saudi Arabia. And all of those great moments that you can relive in that compilation video, which will be up eventually.
Eventually, sometime in 2023.
So stay tuned for that in a year and plus change in all that time. So, Josh, again, thank you very much for being a part of this podcast and of your own podcast, of course.
Of course.
Skylar, see y'all in 2022. Thank you for being a fantastic co-host. And before I finish up, one of the things that we added this year was Skylar as a co-host, and I could not have asked for a better co-host to have this show with, somebody who finally reined in a little bit of my lunacy and brought it to a controlled level of lunacy. Skylar, it has been fantastic having you as a co-host, and I can't wait to see what 2022 brings for both of us.
And that's what it is all about, ladies and gentlemen.
That's right. And folks,
and it's been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure doing this. It's been fun, and I look forward to more fun.
Yes, and it's going to be more fun because there's nothing but fun here at the Court-Martail podcast. And the only way you're going to find that out is to like, share, subscribe, hit that bell button, change it to all so you get every notification every time we post. That's the only way you're going to find out. Live streams coming next year, regular podcasts coming next year, 100th episode coming next year very soon. So stay tuned for that. Folks, while TAP wraps up, I'm going to close out this stream. Thank you very much for watching and or listening, and we will see you in 2022. Take care, everybody.
And thank you guys